Go with all the platoons and the openers. No, bring in Bob Melvin. Let's get some old school baseball back up here in San Francisco. Out in
San Diego,
Chicago.
Mike Schilt.
That's maybe we'll see.
Well,
more clarity.
You're going old school or young? Which one you going?
We'll
Had the old bull, now I want the young calf.
I would go the opposite route there, but
had the young calf, now I want the old bull.
So I find what's going on right now in Major League Baseball to be really interesting in all seriousness. Over the last few years, we've seen Dusty Baker win a World Series. We saw Bruce Bochy win a World Series. Those are guys that bring a lot of experience, and frankly, they're up there in age. And this is the type of manager that baseball has tried to get out of the game in a lot of ways, man. I think part of that is money. I think baseball teams don't want to spend the money on the manager position as much anymore because they don't view it as being significant. And yet, you look at what some of these baseball managers are that have had the success. Rob Thompson, Brian Snitker. These guys are, whether you believe that they're actually old school or not, they're advanced in age. And that gives off the impression of being old school. Now, I can say all that I want to about how, yeah, but Bruce Bochy came out this year publicly and stated, I get all of the information possible from my front office, and then we implement that into our game plans. I can tell you all I want to about Rob Thompson, who apparently went to his entire team other than the starter, Ranger Suarez, when they decided to go with essentially an opener situation to use that as a game where they were truly following the analytical numbers on their pitching side. None of that matters. Nobody wants to hear that. What they want to hear is baseball's managers are back. And the Craig Counsell decision, where he got offered a boatload of money, they backed up the Brinks truck because they were able to improve from David Ross to Craig Counsell. That shows what we're talking about here. And then yesterday, another domino fell in this line of thinking. Ron Washington was hired by the LA Angels. Now, I don't think this is going to be something that takes the Angels from a 73-win team to a 90-win team overnight. I think it's much more likely that the Angels are worse next year than better if Shohei Ohtani decides to leave.
Well, this is how you get Shohei Ohtani not to leave.
Absolutely. I do think that we have undervalued managers across Major League Baseball. I think they do matter, but I think it's more about vibes, and I think it's more about the individual coaching than it is anything else. Alex, where do you stand on this managerial decision?
I mean, I feel like this is getting overblown because Craig Counsell was available. I feel like the manager position is this glaring spotlight around Major League Baseball to kick off the offseason festivities because a guy who is considered one of the brightest young managers in the game that had a lot of success for a Milwaukee Brewers team that didn't have the roster to back up the success that they had. And everybody is all excited that, the manager's back now. And I've seen tweets saying that, like, Moneyball's dead, and I just don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, baby! Death to the numbers! Woo!
And we got the Yankees owner that's talking about bunting more. Like,
yes!
It feels like we're living in this twilight zone where we're trying to make.
No, we're living in T-Bone's dream fantasy.
Well, that's
world.
true. T-Bone's bedroom right now.
Me.
Apparently.
I must be dreaming.
It feels like everybody's trying to make something more out of.
The running game is back.
Stealing bases because the bases got bigger. You're just trying to move the runner over.
This is like the 80s all over again.
Well, as we're talking, then Whitey Herzog is the next manager for the Cardinals. Right?
We're back.
If we're doing this.
We're back.
92 years old, I'd say he's still brighter than most guys in Major League Baseball.
I agree with that.
It really feels like all of these teams are trying to, like, all of the owners are like, hey, don't look at our roster that we don't want to spend a ton of money on and let our young players develop. Look at our manager. He's not into analytics. He's into gut. He's into locker room camaraderie, and I don't think that's going to matter.
So I think some teams have actually underplayed the importance of that stuff. Like, I think it is really important to have a guy that can work the room.
So then why didn't Bob Melvin work for the Padres? Because that's a guy that knows how to work rooms.
I think sometimes there's rooms that just don't work. And I think what happened this year with the Padres is the team wasn't a team. I heard yesterday Chris Getz came out, the new general manager for the White Sox, and he said, I like individual players, I don't like our team. I respect how honest he was about that, because I think he's right. Of all of the after we've heard all of these reports from players that were on the White Sox talking about how, hey man, this team did not come together. Players just did not take this stuff as seriously as they needed to. I think that team needs to be completely broken apart. I think there's certain rosters that are just rotten to the core, and whether it's because it's from the top down or if it was just a player issue that, I mean, we saw this with the Red Sox a while ago, right? You remember the fried chicken story where it was like, hey, we got to break up this group of players. We got to get some more different guys in here. Sometimes stuff just kind of runs its course. And I think the Padres have kind of run their course in this current iteration of the team. They've tried a bunch of different managers. They've tried adding new talent. It hasn't worked. All right, maybe there's a problem with the actual core group of guys that we got in here. I think that's what happened there. I do think, though, that, like, having Bruce Bochy in Texas mattered. It did. I don't think he's the reason why they won the World Series. I think the reason why they won the World Series is because they spent $500 million on their middle infield. Corey Seager was the best hitter in the sport for the last month of the season.
Traded for Jordan Montgomery.
They made really smart decisions, but also they had a guy in charge that was able to get the best out of them. And that does matter. It does. I'm not trying to undersell that. But I think you need the talent first, and then the manager matters. And so that's where I find this to be really interesting is I think the Cubs, what they're doing, I think the Cubs are trying to recreate what they did in 2016. I think the Cubs look back to the success that they had with the last version of the team that won and say, well, that's the way that you win. What they have in that team? They had a bunch of stars, and they brought in a manager as the final piece. The final piece to that puzzle was bringing in a star manager in Joe Madden. And I think that's what they're trying to recreate. Alex, when we think about what do the Blues need to do to get back to championship form?
We get a champion
Trade for a
coach.
top 10 defense or top defenseman.
We reference what they did to get it the last time, the only time.
Whoa.
What do we do when we talk about the Cardinals needing to get back to championship form?
We skip 2011, go back to TLR's 06.
Fair. We bring up the MV3. We bring
back Walt
what they
Jocketty.
were able to do in 2011 to 2013. You need the ace, right? Who's your Chris Carpenter? Who's your Waino? Who's your guy that's going to start a game one for you and go up there toe-to-toe against Roy Halladay, RIP, and go shove in that game, right? Give you a chance to
We just
win.
learned who texted in yesterday and told us that the comp for Chris Carpenter is who was the free agent that they brought up? God, why am I blanking on the name? Remember?
Was it Nola?
No, it wasn't Nola.
No,
it was some
something
like
ridiculous.
middle tier starting pitcher that they tried to convince us that the numbers look the same. His FIP is the exact same as Chris Carpenter was.
Yeah, I
God,
can't
who
remember
was
who it
it?
was. I can't remember.
Wasn't Sonny Gray?
Giolito?
No. I'm in vacation.
Yeah,
mode.
I was
don't
going to
know,
say,
man.
BK
Anyways,
gave up on the day.
I say all of that to say this. I think managers matter. I think teams going to like more experienced managers that bring something to the room. I think that's really smart. I also don't want to get out over our skis here. This doesn't mean the Cardinals need to fire Ollie Marmol. This doesn't mean that young managers can't work anywhere else. It doesn't mean that the only way to win in Major League Baseball is by saying, screw the numbers, we're not listening. No, none of these teams are doing that. They're not. Ron Washington will have a packet of information on his desk every single morning. And you know what? He's going to utilize it because he's not a dummy. He's a smart guy.
Nope, he's going to crumble it up and throw it in the trash can. I'm going with my gut
He's
tonight.
bringing his shredder to work.
You cannot exclusively go based upon that. But if you just say, forget the numbers, this is what my gut tells me, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. It's not a way to win in Major League Baseball in 2023. If you go out to the players and you sound like you don't understand what the modern game is, they're going to laugh at you. Because they are all growing up in a day and age where, guys, minor leaguers, college players, guys that are growing up in travel teams, they're using Rapsodos when they're like 15 years old now. Like our youth teams around St. Louis, if you have a kid right now that is going through a competitive baseball program or are getting individual baseball lessons, odds are you have seen them learn about their spin rates, their velocity, everything, pitch shaping, because you're trying to find out, okay, what do we need to do to improve? That's what all of these guys are growing up with now. If you got a manager that doesn't understand how to use that stuff, you can't win in today's game, and your players will just completely ignore them. So managers are still important. I think some of the stuff that we didn't put enough importance on over the last decade or so in the game, that is starting to come back, but it's not going all the way in that direction. It's somewhere in the middle ground.
Well, let me ask you this. Who has more success with the team next season, Craig Counsell or Ron Washington?
Well, I mean, one of their teams is probably going to be good. The other one's going to be bad. So I would say it's going to be Craig Counsell because his team's investing in
Exactly.
the players.
The manager doesn't matter because it's about the roster that you're putting in place.
But
Ron
it does.
Washington's going to get the best out of his team because he is a locker room guy. But at the end of the day, one team is going to spend ample amount of money to bring in talented players, and the other is probably going to try and return this thing around now that they lose Shohei Ohtani. And the manager, as great as he is a great of a rah-rah locker room guy that he is, it's really going to come down to who are you putting around Mike Trout to be successful compared to what guys are you putting on a roster. If you get Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto for the Cubs, yeah, of course Craig Counsell's going to have success.
Yeah, but I also think that there is you can't put a number on this. There is no way to do so. I do think that if you had David Ross manage the exact same team this year as what they're going to have with Craig Counsell, I think David Ross gets less out of them. I do.
Not if you're. I would disagrey if you're putting the amount of top A players on that roster.
So you don't think coaching at all matters in Major League Baseball?
No, not that it doesn't matter. I think acting like one guy is going to make this team the best team in the National League.
I'm telling you that I think if you have the exact same roster and Craig Counsell is managing it, let's say they're a true talent 90-win team. Craig Counsell's managing them. I think they could get to 95. I think he could be worth 4 or 5 wins.
So last season's roster for the Cubs, I absolutely agree with you. If you put Counsell on that team, but what I'm saying is next year we're going to act like if the Cubs go on to win 95, 100 games, and we're going to act like Craig Counsell turned it around, but we're going to overlook the fact that they probably signed Shohei Ohtani and trade Juan Soto. Okay. We're going to over-exaggerate the importance of a manager next year with Counsell.
So now I think I see what you're saying. If they end up going out there and making 2 massive splash moves this offseason, and then this team wins 95 games next year, the bigger reason for it will be the moves that they made on the player side. It doesn't mean that the manager had nothing to do with it, though. The manager, I do think, matters. I do. I think if you've got a bad manager in there, it can ruin everything. If you've got an average manager in there, improving from that to a great one can improve things. I think this year, Texas, I think it mattered that they had Bruce Bochy on the bench. I really do. I think he's an excellent manager, a Hall of Fame manager, arguably the best one of the last 20 years. I just refuse to believe that means nothing to have that guy making the decisions. I also think Ollie is a pretty good manager here in St. Louis. And I think this year was a weird season. If you look back at TLR's second year, when he was first getting into managing, man, somebody had to give him his first crack at it. All these guys that we're seeing right now that are managers that have a ton of experience in the position, at some point, somebody hired them for the first time. And the Cardinals are hoping we can get the most out of this guy because as he continues to gain experience, we think he can develop into one of those guys that you're talking about. Now, the final thing on this, Alex, before we get to Scott Perunovich, who's finally getting his chance in the lineup for the Blues. How many managers actually matter? Because I've seen a lot over the last few days. Buster only had a really good piece on this earlier today over on ESPN.com about how Craig Counsell hitting free agency is going to be a change to the landscape for managers across the league. More guys will now hit free agency, and then there will be a bidding war for their services. Okay, sure. In theory, I like the idea. How many managers, though, would have a bidding war for them? 2, 3, maybe 4?
I mean, Kevin Cash comes to mind. I think you're going to get a bidding war for him. I think you'd get a bidding war for Dave Roberts and Brian Snitker, and part of me feels like those two would be overpaid because it's name recognition. And you're looking at 2 guys that...
winners.
Yeah, they're on teams that, have spent ample amount of money to put good teams on the field. I think that's the only 3. I mean, if we're going to say Bruce Bochy in this one, but...
Like Cora, maybe. World Series winner.
I don't know if that's a
Notable
bidding
name.
war, though. Because aren't you kind of seeing, his true colors with a team that's not talented?
I mean, he's got a talented roster. They haven't done much the last couple of years. And I know a lot of people will blame Chaim Bloom because he's the one who got fired.
But not as talented as he had when he won the World Series.
I mean, we just raised the question of if I put Counsell on that team, I think the Red Sox are better with him than Cora. So I don't think Cora would be that guy. Cora hasn't been able to shake off the trash can, the sign stealing scandal yet.
For you. I think for most people he has.
Well, God, he is the worst.
I'm telling you, man, he goes on vacation, and what I think he likes to do...
We'll take it from here. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Scott
pour the
Perunovich.
gasoline and light it.
Yeah, 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN in about 10 minutes or so. We're getting to our football pick, and we'll also be joined, Alex, by the general manager of the Arizona Coyotes, Bill Armstrong, former Blues assistant GM. He's going to join us coming up at 12 o'clock, so tell all your friends to tune into that. Bill Armstrong joining the show coming up.
Bill Armstrong's coming up today at 12 o'clock.
But right now, the Blues have made a decision to change their lineup a bit going into tonight's game, Alex. First of all, they're going to have Joel Hofer in net, so Hofer back in net against Arizona. He was the first one off the ice, so that's our anticipation going into tonight's game. Also, Scott Perunovich is going to get an opportunity to be in the lineup and to be on the power play. Here's what Craig Berube told the Fast Lane yesterday about what he wants to see from Perunovich when he gets this chance.
Well, one being defending responsible, defensively responsible for sure, and making sure that he's doing a good job in that area. Two, move the puck, get it up to our forwards as quickly as possible. And that's, he's going in not just because of the power play. I want him to get power play opportunities too, but that puck movement, getting it up to our forwards, will decrease some of the frustration at times too that our forwards have. They want that puck quicker in their hands. He's the type of player that can make those plays, clean plays, to our forwards, where now they're having opportunities going the other way.
Okay, let's take that and break it down from coach speak. Yep. He wants quick exits out of the zone and no turnovers. He's trying to create offense with Scott Perunovich. And this last game against Winnipeg, it wasn't just one defenseman. It's not like Tyler Tucker was the bad one out, and that's why you had to pull him out. You couldn't get out of your own zone. Winnipeg heavily forechecked you. You tried to make zone exit passes, and it got picked off. And then you were talking turnovers, and you weren't using your feet. Scott Perunovich is fast. Scott Perunovich is very good at moving the puck, and his outlet passes get the forwards moving faster. You force the other team to play transition hockey, and you didn't do that against Winnipeg. And Arizona is going to forecheck the hell out of you tonight. They are going to force you in your own zone. They're going to steal pucks away from you. They're going to have two guys on one man, and this is an opportunity. If you're elite at puck moving out of your zone, you can catch them off guard and get some odd man rushes. So if Scott Perunovich wants to stay in the lineup, and it's a good decision by Craig Berube because that's his expertise. Puck's on his stick, you're getting that outlet pass, and it's crisp onto the tape of the forward, and we're talking about the play going the opposite direction. Now, if he's making sloppy passes, or if you're hesitant with the puck, if you're not skating, you're going to cause turnovers, which means you're going to be sitting on the bench. So he's got to create offense, and I don't mean pick up points, have an assist, get a goal.
But do that on the power play, too, please.
Yeah, please do it on the power play in the 10 seconds of ice time that you'll get on that second
40.
unit. 40? Sure. Yeah, we'll count that one. I doubt it. 5-on-5 play, you got to see him jump into the offense the way that those guys did against Montreal and New Jersey.
I also like that they're going with him in this stretch of games. You've got Arizona and Colorado as your next two.
Yeah.
These are two faster teams that are going to try to beat you with speed and skill, and that is not a good matchup for Tyler Tucker.
Yeah.
That we saw this the last time around when they went up against Colorado. It doesn't go well for Tucker in these kinds of matchups. So I like that they're getting him out there right now. I would just honestly give him an extended runway. I know that it's going to look bad at times. He's probably going to get walked. He's probably going to get stood up in front of his own net a few times. There will be growing pains. But there were also growing pains with Tyler Tucker, man. And if you're telling me, hey, who would you rather see grow with this opportunity, given what the Blues have right now, offensively, defensively, everything, taking everything into account? Would you rather see Tyler Tucker continue to grow, or would you rather see Scott Perunovich continue to grow? I lean towards Perunovich because skill set wise, you need somebody to help you on this power play right now. Skill set wise, you need somebody that can get the puck out of your own end as quickly as humanly possible. He has those skills. You need a guy that's got a little speed back there with Marco Scandella. So I like them going this direction, and I would just say, hey, for the next 10 games, you gave an opportunity for Tyler Tucker. He didn't really do anything that would suggest to me he needs to be in that lineup on a night-in, night-out basis. He looks more like a seventh defenseman than a sixth guy to me. Let's see what it looks like with Perunovich.
Yeah, I know the narrative was going into the season, well, Perunovich and crew can't be on the ice together. They absolutely can because you're an offense-driven team, and I know that sounds crazy to say, but your defense, the scheme that has been put in place, has worked. We've seen it shut down some really good teams. Offensively, you're a lot of one-and-dones with the exception of a few games. You can have Krug, you can have Leddy, you can have Scott Perunovich in the lineup on a nightly basis because you're not trying to outmuscle the opponent in front of the net. What you're trying to do is you're trying to force the opponent to take the initial shot from the outside, pick up that loose puck, and move it north. And that's where Scott Perunovich can thrive for this team tonight.
Yeah, I just want to see it. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm excited that they're giving him an opportunity. Fingers crossed that he's able to take advantage of it. The one other thing Blues-wise that I wanted to get to, Alex, I mentioned Joel Hofer expected to be in net for the Blues tonight against Arizona. There was also this that came from Elliot Friedman in his 32 Thoughts podcast on the Blues goalie situation, but really he was talking about Edmonton and what they can do to fix their situation. My God, has it gotten bad quickly up there. He said, I do think they are contemplating things, looking at several different options, speaking of Edmonton. There have been reports of Jordan Binnington, but unless the Blues are willing to give up on their season, they would need to replace him, and they probably won't be taking on Campbell in return. Binnington also has a $6 million cap hit, which would take quite a bit of finagling from both sides. It's not impossible, but it is certainly challenging. Alex, in my opinion, it should be impossible. He is one of the very few players on this team that if you want to make this a retool instead of a rebuild, he's an untouchable. It's a non-negotiable. Jordan Binnington should not be available via trade right now. Now, there was a time a couple of years ago that I wondered, does it make sense for the Blues? Would this be under consideration at the trade deadline? We were talking about it. The answer is no. The answer is you've got a franchise goalie, and you just don't get rid of a franchise goalie when you have one. So keep him here. I don't care what's going on in Edmonton. That's their problem. They can't have one of your solutions.
Well, and he's got a no-trade clause. So, you got to go through that. But you're right. Anybody who thinks trading Jordan Binnington's a good idea because you can save the cap space, you're going into a rebuild if that's the case, because Jordan Binnington allows you the opportunity to kind of go through these growing pains with the younger players and get into a better spot. And by year 3, you're talking about Jordan Binnington being 32, 33 years old, hoping to compete again, and you got a guy who can do that. Joel Hofer's 23 years old. Joel Hofer's getting the start tonight because he's looked good in his last couple of games. But why break up something that is and I know we've talked about this a lot, the Blues don't do anything great. They do goaltending great right now. True. And why would you break up what you've got two guys that are making less than $7 million for the next 2 years that are going to give you a chance to win every single night? You don't break that up, even if it's Edmonton.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Blues versus Coyotes tonight. Pregame coverage with Alex begins at 6 o'clock. We'll have that full coverage right here on your home of the Blues 101 ESPN. Arizona Coyotes general manager Bill Armstrong joins the show coming up at noon. Coming up next, our football pick'em. We're getting to our 3 favorite picks of the week. College, NFL, it's got to be on Saturday or Sunday. Who you going with? We'll tell you next here on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues will be back in action tonight as they host the Arizona Coyotes, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 7 with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, and the Arizona Coyotes GM, Bill Armstrong, will be joining the show at 12 o'clock. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 10 minutes, we're getting to questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, get them in on the Air Comfort Service text line at 314-399-9646. Or if you want to watch on YouTube, you can get us a chat over there as well at 101 ESPN STL. Our Air Alliance team studio cams are where you can find us. All right, Alex, we're getting to our football pick'em. The way that we do this each and every week throughout the football season, we will pick 3 games. It's on a scale of 1 to 3, 3 being the most confident. Every week, we will reveal our picks the following week. So far, through the first week of this month's challenge, I'm in first place. I've got 5 of the 6 possible points. Alex is in
Don't
second
get used
place.
to it.
Alex has 4 of the 6 potential points. T-Bone is a fraud, and he has 3 of the 6
Unbelievable.
potential
You're terrible,
points.
T-Bone.
We'll go in
Terrible.
reverse order
Strong
this week.
words.
I will be picking first my 1-point play going into the weekend. I'm sure there's going to be some fans that are upset at me. I don't care. I'm taking the Missouri Tigers plus the 2 points at home against Tennessee. Tennessee's a really good football team, guys. I'm not suggesting that they're not. But they do 2 things well. They run the ball really well, and they stop the run really well. You can throw against this defense, and if they get down, they have a really tough time getting back into games by throwing the ball. I said earlier this year, T-Bone, Joe Milton can't do what?
Can't hit the something side of a barn.
Can't hit the broadside of a barn.
The empty door of a barn.
That hasn't changed. This is a team that went from a top 3 passing offense in all of college football to this year being a bottom half passing offense in the sport. I like the Tigers. I think this is a really big Luther Burden game. I think Brady Cook has a get-right day against that Tennessee defense. Give me Mizzou plus 2 points at home. I like that one.
All right, my 1-point play. I'm sticking like I've done all season long. I'm staying in the NFL. And boys, he's back. And who am I talking about?
Tommy DeVito?
Nope, not Tommy. God, no, I'm not picking that game. Kyler bleeping Murray.
Is that good?
You got Arizona at home against the Falcons that they can't stop the broadside of a barn when a quarterback's throwing the ball. And they don't have a whole lot of options, but they do have Kyler Murray and they do have James Conner both returning in this game. So I'm taking Arizona plus 1.5. I'm surprised they're the underdog in this one.
I've got this line at plus 2.
I've got it at plus 2 as well.
You in?
I got it at plus 1.5 on FanDuel.
I mean, it's better for you if we've got it at plus 2.
Hey,
Except they're now you
if
can
I
definitely
lose
push.
and it was plus 1.5, yeah, that's true. I'll take a plus 2.
All right.
Doesn't matter. They're winning straight up, so I don't really care.
I gave serious. This was my 4th pick, so it was just on the outside looking in. I gave serious consideration to this one. I like the Cardinals a lot this week.
I almost moved it up, but the other 2 I was so much more confident in.
I just don't know what to expect from Kyler.
And that's why I put it at 1, but I know Atlanta sucks.
If we knew Kyler was coming back and he was going to be like at 100%, they might be favored in this game. So you're getting a little bit of a discount if you believe in Kyler.
Someone said Kyler's going to be great until the new Grand Theft Auto game drops.
Exactly.
Yeah, COD's coming out soon, too.
Oh, yeah.
My
Oh, crap.
1-point play. I warned Alex about this last week. I've warned you guys ever since I joined the show. One day, you will listen. This week, it's going to happen again. San Francisco's going west to east, and they are going to Jacksonville for a noon start. Let me calculate that in my head. That means they're playing 10 a.m. their time. They're not going to wake up yet. Give me Jacksonville plus 3 against the San Francisco 49ers.
That's a stupid, bold bet to take
So
on.
I'm not going to lie to you. Last night as I was looking at that game,
You heard me in the back of your head go,
I thought about taking the
Get out of my room.
49ers minus the 3 points on the road. And in the back of my mind, I said, yeah, but BK, it's a noon kick on the
So
East Coast.
stupid.
Exactly.
God, I pray San Francisco
welcome.
beats that and beats it strongly so that I can hear T-Bone just shut up about that.
All right, my next pick here.
Shut up about the sun!
I have been told all year by everybody who will say it that Michigan is the best team in the country based on what they have done against the bad opponents on their schedule. Nobody can score on this defense, man. And Michigan is consistently putting up 40 points against whoever it is that's on the other side. Now, this week, they travel. They're going on the road at Penn State, the best defense by a wide margin that Michigan has played so far this year. I don't care. I like Michigan minus the 4.5 points on the road at Penn State. I think Penn State will get down by 2 scores at some point in this game, probably around the third quarter. And when they do, they have no chance of coming back. That offense just isn't good enough. They have no passing game to speak of. And going up against this Michigan defense, Michigan is more likely to score defensively than Penn State is to put up 21 plus. Give me Michigan minus the 4.5 points. I think they roll in Happy Valley.
I like that one.
We've got a duplicate because that's my 3-point play.
I like that one.
I love Michigan in this one because Penn State struggled with Ohio State, and I think Ohio State's a fraud in the college football playoff. So I think Michigan's going to beat the door off of them. So I like it 4.5. As long as this didn't get to 7 and beyond, I was going to like this game no matter what. It's 4.5. I'm going to take it 3-point play.
By the way, we need to correct T-Bone. He doesn't know how time zones work. It's 3 hours.
Did he say 4?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, he said 2.
Well, I said, sorry.
Worse.
It's a 12 o'clock start our time. I was going 2 hours from our time.
Gotcha.
Yes, 3 hours on the East Coast. Okay. Still equals 10 a.m., by the way, text line.
Hey, man, we're just making sure that we're holding you accountable to your West Coast, East Coast time zones.
They went, nope, I got him. No, you did not, sir or madam.
All right. I love this spread. I hope it didn't change at all, but my 2-point play is the Ravens at home against the Cleveland Browns. It's 6.5. I think Baltimore wins that by more than 7. I've been betting against Baltimore this season, but I can't do it anymore. Their defense is the best in the AFC right now. I know you're going up against another team that's got a really good defense. I don't think that matters, and I think Lamar Jackson has a field day with them.
All right, T-Bone already gave us his 3-point pick. He's riding with Michigan along with me. I am now going to make a ballsy move. And I don't even think it's all that gutsy, but it is the biggest line on the table right now.
Oh, no, he is not. Don't tell me you're doing the Cowboys one, man.
Going over to the NFL.
Dude, it's 16.5.
The Dallas Cowboys
How about them Cowboys?
17 is what I've got.
It moved again.
It was 14.5 when I saw it last night. And then T-Bone's guy,
God,
DeVito, was announced as the starting quarterback today for the New York Giants. And it bumped up another 2.5 points. I don't care. You could make this line 21 points. It wouldn't be enough.
This is such a loss.
This is so bad.
The Giants cannot score. They can't move the football. I watched them against the Jets. It was embarrassing. I watched them against the Raiders, who have a bad defense. They got shellacked. Never had a chance in the game. Dallas wins this one 41-3. They put them away early. It never ends up being close. You could make this line as big as you possibly wanted to. I would take the Cowboys. Give me Dallas.
This is the breakout game for Tommy DeVito. This is the game Tommy DeVito looks like a QB1.
I didn't need a reason to root for my guy Tommy DeVito, but you just added more to it.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
I will.
They had negative passing yards against the Jets.
I might buy you a Giants DeVito shirt if they end up covering.
Oh, man, yeah, you might be forced to wear that. You know you're losing, right?
You don't even have to worry about it. It's not in the realm of the possible.
You know the Cowboys are going to be up by 14 because the defense shuts the Cowboys down, and then the last play, when they could kick a field goal, they're going to just knee it.
Their defense stinks. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL. This team is terrible.
Okay, buddy. Is it to me or is it to you?
It's to you.
It's to me? Okay, so I'm on my 3-point play. I juggled with these. I was going to do Baltimore at 3, but, man, I'm going to back the team that I'm confident in, and I'm taking the line. Rawr! -3 on the road in L.A. Don't care because the Lions are the better team. Montgomery's back. Finally, Dan Campbell's got some sense in him and says, you know what, maybe we should use Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery more. I think they're going to run the table on that Chargers team. So that's my 3-point play.
Yeah, I hate that pick. Hate it.
Well,
absolutely
win by me.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the Lions. I do actually like the Browns in your game against Baltimore.
I do too.
Watson played really well in their previous outing, and their defense.
You said you liked it? Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
So as we said, my 3-point play was Michigan -4.5 against Penn State. So my 2-point play, I'm sticking with college football. Man, I thought Bama was a okay football team early on. and they have turned a corner, and they look like a potential, we talked about them yesterday, contender for the college football playoff. Hey, we know Kentucky. If you're a winning team in the SEC, you've got to have a field day against them Wildcats. So give me the Bama minus 11 at Kentucky. Nick Saban's going to get another win and continue to have the conversation of them as being a college football playoff contender.
My buddy in Vegas, who actually does this for a living, that's his favorite pick on the board this weekend.
Nice.
What did he say about my picks?
Didn't like him.
Yeah, shut up.
He went Cleveland.
Yeah, shut up.
He definitely did not like Cowboys minus 17.
Yeah, I was going to say he definitely doesn't like that spread.
He actually loved it.
Yeah,
he said that's that's his favorite NFL
this is
play
BK
this week.
trying to be like, no, he loves
At the
all
time,
my
it was
picks.
14 and a half.
Yeah,
Does he always love your picks? Because I
No.
don't think he's smart.
He asks me my picks on Thursday so that way he can then bet the opposite. And I'm not kidding.
Smart.
Smart man.
So, our picks for the week. I've got Mizzou as my 1-point play. They're a 2-point underdog at home on Saturday against the Tennessee
Poor Mizzou
Volunteers. Michigan minus 4.5 on the road at Penn State. I've got the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Minus 17. Alex is riding with the Arizona Cardinals in the fighting Kyler Murray's +2. He's got the Ravens minus 6.5 against the Browns. He's got the Lions minus 3 in T-Bone. Going with 2 college football games once again. He's got the Jaguars, though, to start things off. They are playing at home. Teams coming from the West Coast. It's a noon slate. Come on, man.
Easy
you know that's a
money.
guaranteed pick for T-Bone. Jaguars +3 at home against the 49ers.
That's
He's
a
got
loss.
Alabama minus 11 and Michigan as well minus 4.5. Those are our picks going into the weekend. I am currently atop our standings with 5 points. Alex has 4. T-Bone has 3. You guys can follow along all weekend long. We will give you our reveal coming up on Tuesday. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers here on 101 ESPN.
You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Bill Armstrong, the Arizona Coyotes general manager, will join the show in less than 10 minutes, so stay tuned for that. Want to talk a little bit of big picture hockey with him. We'll get into that coming up here in just a little bit. But right now, it is Questions and Answers. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 314, guys, when do you think it'll be time for BK to officially retire from picking football games?
Can't retire. He's in first place.
That's right.
Never. I need somebody that'll get punished.
Shoot, brother. Shoot.
There's never been more of
That's right.
a stretch that I desperately want to win now that we've come up with this punishment. I want to just heave tomatoes at both of you so freaking bad.
Oh, yeah. Have we announced that yet?
No, I don't think so.
No,
The
way to
punishment
leak
this
it.
time around will be we're going to stand in front of a wall and basically play dodgeball with tomatoes.
And I'm picking up Roma tomatoes. Like these are going to be like freaking baseballs.
I'm light as a feather and float like a bee, so I won't be getting hit.
10 seems good.
10 a person.
Feels like a lot.
God, I'm going to leave welts. I'm going to leave welts.
All right, from the 314. Guys, considering that City finished as the top seed in the West, would you consider it a failure that they didn't win at least one playoff game?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that the season is a failure, given what the expectations were coming into the year. They gave you as fans a reason to really latch onto this team. And that was the goal for season one. But yeah, the finishing with no playoff wins when you were the number one seed, that's a failure.
I mean, but let's not get them mixed up. Because the season was a failure because you didn't win a playoff game, it's not that it was a bad season.
The finish was a failure. The season itself was a massive success.
The fact that you were the best team in your inaugural season was a success for you.
100%.
Now you got to figure out how to be better because you failed in the aspect of picking up a victory. Just don't get them confused.
I think there's three different ways I would look at it. Season as a whole, success. Playoffs, failure. Overall, pretty disappointing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you're the top seed in the West and then you struggle in the final month after clinching and then you just get get the doors knocked in and fail in the postseason, it really puts a sting on how the season will be remembered. Everybody will say,
really?
I remember the first year when the expansion team was here and they were
disagree.
good. Everybody remembers playoff failure.
But I don't think you're not gonna live on that.
I mean, maybe it's just me,
You're
but
a negative guy, though.
Well, no, but I think
When you look back at year one of City, you think we'll look at it as a disappointment? I totally disagree with that.
Depending on how you ask the question, the season itself.
20 years from now, how are you going to remember this?
If you ask me,
City?
how do I remember them being good. I remember them laying an egg in the playoffs. And I think that was disappointing because I thought that team should have made a semifinal run in the West. They really should have. They had too much talent to get bounced like that. And then at their presser yesterday, they kept talking about, how the regular season was a success and didn't mention anything about being bounced early.
But
I'll remember it fondly.
And it's not like that they were playing great from start to finish in the regular season. They were bad the last 6 to 7 games.
I know, and that's what adds disappointment.
No, see, I'd be more disappointed if they were dominant from start to finish and then laid 2 eggs and got bounced. That would be disappointing to me.
Interesting. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314 following up on this. The real question is, can City repeat next year what they did this year? Now, I know Rockio got yelled at by his cohorts on his show when he brought this up.
Well, we don't do that on this show. We don't.
It's mostly Carrie and specifically Randy, who were very upset that he brought up the expected goal stat. And
we don't use those voices here.
They asked a question which I think is fair. What matters more, real goals or expected goals? And the answer is, of course, real goals. I would rather win with real goals than lose with expected goals. I wholeheartedly subscribe to that theory. However, as you're going into an offseason and you're thinking about how you project for the following season, it's kind of like with the Vikings last year. We can look at the Vikings and see, they were a playoff team. Nothing about that was real. The Giants last year, they were a playoff team. Nothing about it was real. And you could project towards the next season and see there's regression coming for both of these teams if they don't make significant improvements. There is some truth to that, some validity to that with City. They relied heavily, and I mean heavily, on the MLS Goaltender of the Year, which was announced earlier today. By the way, congratulations to Roman Berkey. Hell of a year by him. More than deserving. He was a runaway favorite,
Sleeves are
ended up
tight.
winning that MLS goaltender of the
out a
year.
little bit more.
If they do that again next year, it's not going to go as well as it did this year. It'll look more like it did in the second half than it did in the first half.
Yeah,
They got to improve.
I agree with you. I think if you were to ask me, like, where would I say they, looking at the MLS as a whole right now, where would they finish in the West? Probably 5 to 8 range would be my guess right now. Still a really good team. But like you said, they did rely on Berkey a lot. And if your goaltender is in the MVP conversation, it's probably because he had to be used a lot and had to save your bacon a lot. And I think that final stretch, the way they ended the year after clinching to where they got knocked out in the playoffs, was kind of the beginning of that regression.
That's Alex Ferrario. He's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, Bill Armstrong, former Blues assistant general manager, now the Arizona Coyotes GM, will join the show. How do you know when it's time for you to officially go for it as a general manager? He is the GM of a team that has struggled mightily for close to a decade. He might be in that scenario this year, Alex, as you get closer to the trade deadline. We'll ask him about that coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. We're in search of Bill Armstrong, the Arizona Coyotes general manager.
Got to do some heavy scouting against the Blues,
Former
tough
Blues
matchup.
assistant GM. Excited to have him on the show today. Alex, before we get to him, let's talk a little bit about the Blues, because Jeremy Rutherford just tweeted out a quote from Craig Berube on Torrey Krug and the power play in general. I found it to be interesting. He said, in terms of what we need to see from Krug on the power play, it's about puck movement more than it is anything else. You got to see the next play quickly. You have to move the puck quickly. 1 second makes a difference, whether you got a shot off or the play is made that quickly. The other thing is, we want him to shoot a little more from the top, create more opportunities from the top. He's got a good shot, so use it. If you go back and look at the past, he's done a good job of getting shots off from the top. Not overthink it. When you have a lane, you got to use it. It's all about quick decision making. They talked about this with Nick Leddy when he came over. That was one of the reasons why they didn't have him on the power play, was because he didn't make quick decisions. Hopefully he can get back to that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's fast decisions, it's fast puck movement, it's moving your feet on the power play, and right now it's just putting shots on net. I mean, it's not looking for the sexy pass to get the one-time shot that's the empty net. It's making sure you're just putting pucks on net, because that's how you gotta slump bust this power play somehow.
Team that's putting a lot of pucks on net right now is the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes general manager is Bill Armstrong. He joins us now via the 101 ESPN hotline. Bill, we appreciate the time. Thanks as always for jumping on with us today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing really well. So when you're in town, Bill, for a game in St. Louis, a place that you spent so many years, is there anything that you feel like you got to make sure that you go hit, like a restaurant that's close to the arena? Anything in particular that you got to make sure you do when you're in St. Louis?
Well, the one major thing that you have to do in St. Louis is take 2 points out of here. That's a major thing.
Proper answer, Bill.
That's pretty much the only thing that I have to do when I'm in St. Louis. Listen, if there's a ball game, I absolutely love the Cards, and but normally that doesn't happen. But when we used to come in for training camp, we'd go to all their, in the summer and development camp, as many baseball games as we could, and just love the Cards, and what an amazing stadium and great feel when you go to a game.
Yeah, Bill, and as you know, in St. Louis, the weather's all over the place. So you just missed it. Yesterday it was like summer here, and now you're back, and now we're hitting winter time. So perfect time to get into St. Louis.
Yeah, we came off the plane yesterday, and the humidity hit us. I was like, what the heck is going on?
You looked at the pilot and said, are you sure you took us to St. Louis, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. What the heck? It was weird. It's a little Indian summer.
Well, Bill, we always love getting the chance to talk with you, of course. Blues fans that are listening know you had your hands in the Blues organization for some time in the drafting and developing, and now with this Arizona Coyotes team, making them a competitive team right now in the Central Division. Let's just start with two guys that I know you were instrumental in drafting with the Blues, and Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas. We've talked with you about these guys over the years, but are you starting to see from them what you saw when you drafted them?
Oh, absolutely. Both guys are tremendous players. It takes a while to be a really elite player at the NHL level. It seems like they've been around for a few years, and they've been in the NHL. Now they're getting to their peak of their career, and you can see it in the way that they play now, and they're just tremendous hockey players. I just cringe when they get the puck when we play against them. I just get nervous,
Bill, not even necessarily talking specifically about them, but in your position, when you see young players, what do you look for when you know, okay, this guy, he's about to reach what we were looking for? Is there a skill? Is there something that happens mentally? What do you look for to know, okay, this guy's about to turn the corner and really hit his stride as a player?
Well, the main thing is you can always see the talent come out, whether it's Tage Thompson or Parayko or Thomas or Kyrou. It's just consistency, being able to do it at a high level every night in the National Hockey League. It's consistency, and right when they get to that 24, 25, kind of age bracket, they kind of seem to find it a little bit more, and that's a hard thing to do at the National Hockey League. It's the best league in the world, and it's really hard to find that consistency of being a great player every night in the league. But you can see both them, Kyrou and Thomas, are finding that more and more every night, and that has to do to their age and and just maturing in the league.
Is there a certain time frame or stretch, Bill, where you see it consistently and you say, okay, I think we've got something here? Because, fans think, oh, well, if you see it for 5 games, you think you're on to something. But I would imagine a front office is looking for something a little bit more longevity-wise.
Yeah, I mean, you every night, you want to push your young kids about consistency all the time. And they drive the bus. They're the 2 best players on the Blues. And they've got to play well every night for the Blues to give a chance to win. And so you've really got to push them to work on that consistency and play at that high level every single night. Because when they do, it's a difference maker. And they've also got to come to terms with that as a young player, too, that they're directly responsible for having massive impact whether we win or lose every night.
We're talking to Bill Armstrong, the Arizona Coyotes general manager, former Blues assistant GM, now taking his talents down to Arizona. Bill, I did want to ask you as a general manager, whether it's your team or you're looking around the league and you're trying to get a gauge for where different organizations are at what point do you feel like you have a good understanding of what you have with your team?
Well, Doug actually gave me some great advice when I was coming in as GM. He just said, listen, you're going to sit there for 1 year, don't do anything. Watch your team as close as you can, go to every single practice, every single game, know your team inside and out, and then make the right moves with the club. I took that to heart. I went and observed as much as I could and got to know our team before we made moves.
And, I loved your comments in the offseason, Bill, because you talked about, the narrative around the Arizona Coyotes was, oh, well, they're in a rebuild and they're stockpiling all these draft picks. But you talked about, hey, it's time to start winning as an Arizona Coyotes organization. And you put a lot of effort into that over the offseason. As a general manager, is there a certain point or are there certain things that you look for that you say to your staff, hey, it's time to stop focusing on not so much the future, but it's time to start focusing on going for it and winning now?
Well, I think what we wanted to make sure was, do we have enough pieces to carry the club? Is there enough talent there that can help us be a really, really good team, in the majority of nights? And we kind of looked at Clayton Keller and the Schmoltzes of the world and who we could acquire in the summer. And we said, listen, I think we can be a competitive club. I don't think we're a playoff club just yet. But what we can be is a competitive club that pushes to play meaningful games down the stretch. And at the same time, we've got a whole bunch of draft picks stockpiled, and we've got a lot of prospects coming. So that buys us some time to now start to bring in some of our elite prospects over the next few years and kind of grow the team into where, a team that has identity, a team that we think we can win with down the stretch. But we want to be a more competitive club. We want to be a club that's in every single game and be very competitive when we play the big clubs in the National Hockey League. And we've done that so far, and that's a great challenge for our organization and our coaching staff.
Bill, do you feel like the Blues and the Coyotes are kind of in a similar time frame in terms of pushing to start competing again?
I absolutely do. We're very similar as a club. We're very even with the Blues, so it's going to be a great battle tonight to see kind of who prevails. I know Clayton Keller loves to come home and play against the Blues.
We don't.
So we're banking on that.
We don't like that at all, Bill. Not one bit.
It hasn't gone well since
him at all.
It hasn't gone well since the pandemic with that guy against the Blues, Bill.
Yeah, he really likes to come home, and I'm just so happy he does.
Yeah, we don't need him. We don't need Schmaltz. You can take all of those guys back to Arizona with you. Go ahead and make them inactive tonight. I hope they have the greatest seasons possible the rest of the way, just not against the Blues. Bill, when you look at this Central Division and you think about, I mean, Colorado and Dallas, everybody kind of knew those teams were going to be up at or near the top of this division. Everybody else is right there when it comes to the points percentage. Is this going to be a division that you feel like it's going to be that way the rest of the season?
Oh, I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think there's, like you said, there's 2 elite teams in our division. The rest, everybody's in that pool, and everybody's going to battle it out to see who gets in. So you never know, if you can avoid some injuries and stay in the fight. Play well down the stretch, you get a chance to get in. So I think it's wide open.
Bill, final question that I've got for you, and we always appreciate you hopping on with us on a day like this where your team's in St. Louis to take on the Blues. When I talk with somebody in your position early in a season, I always like to ask if you've seen anything trend-wise that has stood out to you, and it can be in any way, but Is there anything that has stuck out to you so far this year, goal scoring wise, trends in terms of schematics? Like what has caught your attention, Bill, when you look around the league early on this year?
Well, I think the biggest trend that's happened in the National Hockey League, and if you go back to the Ken Hitchcock days, that when he was here, Ken was a masterful coach, especially at defense and getting the club to work hard, and he always called it the 200-foot game. And I think the game's changed in the sense that how hard teams work on to create offense. It's the newest thing. It's the newest trend in the National Hockey League, and that's why you see the reason the goals are going way up in the game of hockey is because teams are working just as hard to understand how to play good defense is to work on the offense. It's not just your first two lines that they're expecting it from. They're expecting it from your third and fourth line, and teams are studying it. They're doing analytics on it, and everybody's trying to increase their skills so they can score more.
Bill, always great to catch up with you, sir. Thank you so much for taking some time. I know you got a busy schedule in the middle of the season for joining us here in St. Louis, and we look forward to the matchup tonight, and hopefully you're going home a little bit more disappointed.
No, listen, I can't vouch that we're going to go home disappointed. I hope it's the opposite of that, but I do thank you guys very much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we catch up down the road.
Awesome, Bill. You're the best. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. Bill Armstrong, general manager for the Arizona Coyotes, but, of course, a longtime assistant GM for the St. Louis Blues.
You know what I like about him?
His sense of humor?
All of it.
Because I do like that.
the willingness to just kind of come on and talk hockey.
Yeah. He's a hockey guy, man.
That is something that I love when general managers, decision makers, whatever, around the league are willing to do that. I found it really interesting what he said there at the end about the trends around the league. And he was talking about how it's not just the top two lines anymore. You got to have skill throughout your lineup. Alex, if there's a next step for the Blues, that's it. Now, there's a lot of things that this team has to improve upon, but I think they've had moments where their top six looks okay. I think they need improvements up in the top six, but there have been moments where it looks okay. The problem is when you look at the third line right now, and listen, there's no shot at anybody, but it's just the reality of where the Blues are at right now. When you look at the third line for the Blues and you match it up against legitimate contenders, it doesn't match up, man. Alexei Toropchenko as a winger on your third line compared to other teams that are contending for things that are meaningful this year, it's just not the same as what these other teams are putting out there in that spot. And the same thing I think you can say for Jakub Vrana, who I really liked coming into the season. I thought he could be a big piece for what the Blues were trying to accomplish. It hasn't worked so far. And there have been nights where he's playing 9, 10, 11 minutes of ice time for the Blues. So that is one spot that they absolutely have to improve upon. Their fourth line's been better. It's been an identity line. They are getting outshot in a really significant way, but it is what it is. That's a fourth line for you. But the third line needs to improve.
I thought what he said about, when to know when it's time to go for it. And he talked about kind of the development in place. And when you look at the available players out there and say, hey, we've got a good group in front of us. And that goes to the point that you're talking about. Like your top six right now, you'd probably look at and you say, I think we need a couple more pieces. But you kind of have to bide your time with this one before you know that the actual guys in place are ready to go. I just looked at this. Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz. You know how much bad press was put towards those two guys if these are not the pieces that are going to take the Arizona Coyotes into a winning way? Clayton Keller was in the trade conversations last season. This is their 8th season in the NHL. Both of them. Full seasons. This is the 8th year. Robert Thomas is playing in his 6th full season, and Jordan Kyrou is playing in his 6th full season. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time before you get to the point where you say, hey, we got the pieces in place. Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz both had really a breakthrough season last year to where Arizona said, these guys aren't better than the pieces we have in place. So at some point, the Blues, and he also stated that he feels Arizona and St. Louis are in the same time frame. You look at it and you say, we've got these guys. Now how do we build around it? Arizona's just started this season to start to build around it, and I think the Blues are about a year away before they hit that.
Last year was Clayton Keller's age 24 season. He finished the year with 37 goals and 86 points. Yep. Last year was Jordan Kyrou's age 24 season. He finished with 37 goals and 73 points. Now, I think if you were to ask people around the NHL, who would you rather have? I think a lot of them would say Clayton Keller. And the reason why is probably because he's a little bit more of a well-rounded player. A little better distributor, a little better in terms of what the 200-foot game is, all of those different things, right? I think what you're seeing this year from Jordan Kyrou is that he might be ready to take that next step that you saw last year Clayton Keller take, because previously Keller had never had more than 65 points in a season, 28 goals in a year. And then boom, it all came together and it was like, oh, top line winger, this guy's great. Everybody would want Clayton Keller on their team. I think the hope is that that's what Jordan Kyrou becomes this year. You're hoping for him to take the step this year what Keller did a year ago. Yeah. And we'll see. So far, it's been positive returns. You just want him to finish more when it comes to his goal-scoring production. But otherwise, everything else has been there for Jordan Kyrou in 2023. He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, you got Blues versus Coyotes. Kerber will have the call starting at 7. Alex has your pregame coverage right here on 101 ESPN. You're home for the Blues starting tonight at 6 o'clock. Coming up next, it's time for some NFL quick hitters here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It is time for some NFL quick hitters. Alex, let's start with the obvious. You have the Arizona Cardinals, not Coyotes.
No, they're tonight. I do have the pregame, though, starting at 6 o'clock.
Coyotes in town tonight. Cardinals are playing on Sunday. You have them in our Pick'em Challenge against the Arizona Falcons.
I do.
A lot going on here.
Damn.
Let's take two. Take two.
Restart the whole damn segment.
Kyler Murray is getting a start for the Cardinals this weekend against the Falcons. That's what I'm trying to say. What are you expecting from Kyler in this one? Obviously, you think he's going to be okay because you like them to win, but...
Well, I think that's also, I just think the Falcons are a terrible team. So, sorry, Stoltz, if you're listening, buddy. I think I'm expecting Kyler to have a little bit of chip on his shoulder, being out as long as he has been, although I did learn that COD is coming out Friday, so might not be good for me right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm screwed. I should have looked into that. But, like... You're talking about a guy who, 2 years ago, was taking his team to a playoff situation, and we were like, damn, Kyler Murray looks legit. Last year, it didn't work well. Injury happens. I think you're going to see a versatile quarterback. I think you're going to see a mobile quarterback, especially against this Falcons team. The hard part with this is you don't have a whole lot of weapons. So it might be underwhelming in the final score, especially if they blow it and I lose my 1-point game. But, I mean, you made the best of a situation with Joshua Dobbs. So with Kyler Murray and his ability to run, and you've got James Conner back, I'm expecting them to look like the better team against the Atlanta Falcons.
I think he's going to struggle. I think it's going to take him a week or two to kind of get back into the rhythm of things, and he's going to be busy this Friday. So I do expect the Cardinals' offense to look kind of clunky at times. I think there's going to be times this weekend where you go, oh, wow, there's the Kyler that we saw. And then I think at times you're going to go, oh, what was he seeing? Or, oh, he shouldn't have made that play. Or, oh, boy, here he goes again. So I think it's going to be kind of a clunky ride for the first week or two now that he's back.
Do you think they just lock him in their facilities for the weekend and just, like, don't tell him that COD is out and say, like, you can't leave until Sunday after the game?
That's probably smart. I mean, they have that clause in his contract.
No. He pushed back. He said,
no, it's not in there, man. You don't know his contract.
So we continue with NFL quick hitters here on 101 ESPN.
Not even voicing his opinion on it.
I want to play COD with him.
I was asked this question the other day, guys, and I didn't have a good answer. I want to hear if you guys do. Who's been the best quarterback in the NFL so far this year?
Nobody.
I'm serious. Like, who is it? By QBR, the ESPN statistic that they totally made up, but the nerds tell me that it matters, Josh Allen has been the best quarterback so far this year. The rest of the top five is Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, and Justin Herbert. If you go by just quarterback grading, the one that we've been using for 100 years now, Tua has been the best quarterback in the league, followed by Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Russell Wilson, and Lamar Jackson. Guys, who is it? Who's been the best quarterback in your mind so far this year?
I don't know if I could put a name on one. I would say you have to put Tua into that conversation. You have to put Dak. You have to put Mahomes. I'm not putting Josh. I'd put Jared Goff into that conversation before I put Josh Allen. Josh Allen has costed his team at least 3 games this season, where Jared Goff, I mean, he had that interception streak or no interception streak leading up to, what was it, week 6? So those would be the guys. Somebody said Lamar Jackson. The problem is the first 3 weeks of the season, Lamar Jackson looked awful. So from start to finish, I'm not sure you can pick one out because all of them have had their flaws this season.
That's the thing is, like, okay, so we're talking about Patrick Mahomes in this conversation. Mahomes hasn't been good, though.
Yeah.
He's thrown 8 interceptions so far this year, and every week I watch the football games, and I'm like, man, Mahomes is really struggling right now. And then I look at the numbers. Based on every statistical category, he's a top 5 quarterback in the league so far this year. And I think that represents a lot about what this league has been so far in 2023.
I mean, the 2 names that I would think right off the bat, one of them's hurt. Cousins. I thought Cousins was one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Agree.
And then he blew out the Achilles, which was a shame because they're making a playoff push. I think they could have made the playoffs with Kirk Cousins. I thought he'd been one of the best quarterbacks in football. The other one for me, and again, these are all not the name brand guys that you would expect. Guys, CJ Stroud looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now.
So
honestly.
I'm with you. But you look at the last 2 weeks, what he had done, and it didn't look good.
He did get outplayed by Bryce Young in that game.
Yeah, and against the Saints, he threw for 200 yards. He completed less than 50% of his passes. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but threw a pick as well. Like, the last 2 weeks were not good for CJ Stroud. And now, obviously, I think overall he's been a really good quarterback this year. Only 1 interception is amazing. And on the whole, I think he's definitely in the conversation. I'd say he's been a top 5 quarterback this year. But every single quarterback that we bring up, I think you said this, Alex, there's been 1, 2, maybe even 3 performances that are just like, man, what a dud.
Can you put Joe Burrow in this conversation? Because if he had, I mean, his duds are explainable.
By the end of the year. But I think right now doing so would try to overlook that the first month of the season, while you can explain it by injury, he was not good. Yeah. He was a big part of why they were losing football games. And so I cannot put him in the conversation yet, although I do expect him to be there. Like, if I was betting on the MVP today, a guy that I would like their odds for is Joe Burrow, because I think by the end of the season, it is entirely possible, maybe even likely, that he will be the guy that we're discussing in this conversation. It's been a weird year, man. It's why I think right now I would not have a quarterback as the MVP. I would have Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown both above any quarterbacks in terms of the MVP discussion. I think I would have Myles Garrett above any quarterback.
I'd have Christian McCaffrey.
Sure.
Above all of them, too.
I don't think this is a year where a quarterback, as of today, halfway through the season, is deserving of winning the MVP.
I think by the end of the season, it's going to be Joe Burrow.
I think so. Where's he at on the MVP discussion? Let's go ahead and
BK's going to throw away more money like he did with the Jets winning the division.
Oh, buddy, if you think that I haven't already bet on Joe Burrow, you are sadly mistaken. He's at 9-1 to win the MVP this year. Those are actually excellent odds.
Yeah.
I would absolutely take that right now. Tyreek Hill is still 50-1. That doesn't make sense. A.J. Brown, 130-1. Those guys have been better than any quarterback, man. I know we only vote on quarterbacks in this league, but that's nonsense. They've been better. How is Patrick Mahomes the favorite at plus 240?
Because of the name.
I don't know. Is there a game that you can point to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I can't think of a game where I went, wow, Mahomes won that football game for him.
No, because the one game would be the game that Travis Kelce went off for like 185 yards and like 4 touchdowns.
Like, I just haven't felt that way this year. And maybe he should be in that conversation for that game. But every game they've won, I've went, okay, they've kind of had to just fight their way through it.
I thought he was really good against Minnesota. I thought he was really good against Minnesota. I thought he was excellent against the Chargers. And that is the game that you're talking about, Alex, where he ended up throwing 180 to Travis Kelce. But Minnesota's probably the game. That's
so
probably
one game?
Yeah.
And, that's just not Mahomes-like. And I don't even think it's necessarily on Mahomes. Like, I don't think Mahomes became an incompetent quarterback. It's the weapons around him.
Yeah, the team decided not to give him anything.
And I think defenses are... I don't even know why. I can't explain how it has happened. I really can't. But defenses have just clamped down these opposing offenses so far in 2023. But if you're curious about the odds right now on MVP, Mahomes, as we said, plus 240 right now. Jalen Hurts is 3-1. Lamar Jackson at 5-1 is an interesting bet right now as well. Tua 6-1, Joe Burrow 9-1, Josh Allen 14-1, and then you continue. Trevor Lawrence at 19-1, and finally you get a non-quarterback with Christian McCaffrey at 29-1. Tyreek Hill at 50-1, CJ Stroud at 95-1.
Damn. Ooh. You have 3 more. You have the rest of the season the way you played in that last game. That'd be some good money for you.
I would have Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Myles Garrett, and Micah Parsons as my top 5 right now. I would not have a quarterback on the list. Just none of them been good. I can't even tell you who's been the best, so why would I have any of them as my number 1 guy? Can't do it.
Because it's the quarterback award.
Yeah, you're right. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll dive into the junk drawer. But next, we're going to play a game of Would You Rather with the Cardinals free agency edition. ESPN put out some projections on all of the pitchers earlier today. I want to ask you, within these individual buckets, which starting pitcher would you rather have on the Cardinals at this price for 2024? We'll get into it next here on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they host the Arizona Coyotes, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 with Alex Ferrario, and then puck drop at 7 with Chris Kerber. And if you missed it earlier, we had the chance to catch up with the Arizona Coyotes GM Bill Armstrong. And if you missed that interview, you can check it out on our podcast page at 101 ESPN. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your road shop 24/7 at londoff.com, londoffautoPlex.com. Are you kidding me?
I think they're going to play for one of those guys. But I think plan B, the second starter, the third starter they add, to me, I would be shocked if Michael Wacha was the second starter that they add to this rotation. Just don't expect to see Snell and Sonny Gray wearing Cardinal uniforms. It's going to be one of those big-ticket starters with a plan B, plan C guy.
That was Greg Amsinger on with a morning show earlier today alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll get into the junk drawer. Alex, I don't think any of us are anticipating the Cardinals signing two of Yamamoto, Nola, and Snell.
Speak for yourself.
None of us ever expected that to be the case. Now, could they sign Nola and Sonny Gray?
No.
Maybe?
No, sorry. They have to be prudent about their money.
Probably not, if we're being honest. So they're going to dip into different buckets. They're going to get maybe they get Aaron Nola, and then they drop all the way down to Michael Wacha. That's the kind of thing you could see them do. Or they go into the trade market to get their number one starter, and then they sign Sonny Gray and Nick Martinez. That's the kind of thing I think you could potentially expect going into the offseason. Earlier today, Kylie McDaniel, friend of the show, I think we can say. We share names.
Yeah, we'll have him on Friday or Monday when BK's in Austin.
Yeah.
He put out his projections after talking to people around Major League Baseball on what he's anticipating these pitchers getting in free agency. And I'd like to play a game of Would You Rather with some of these free agents. Alex, we're going to dip into each of these three buckets, the top-end starters, the mid-tier starters, the back-end starters, and you tell me which of them you would rather have. You understand the rules?
I understand the rules, so I'm swiping left if I like it, right if I don't.
Basically, yeah. So the first one up, we're going to go into the first box, which is the front-end starters, all right? You don't get Yamamoto. He's not an option for you, unfortunately. Yep, you hate to see it.
Soft offseason, am I right?
hate this game.
Unbelievable.
You can either have Blake Snell on a 6-year contract worth $150 million. It's going to be $25 million per year, okay? Wow. Or, and both of these are coming from the projections that we just discussed from Kylie McDaniel on ESPN.com. You can have Aaron Nola on a 5-year deal worth $120 million. That's $24 million AAV. So basically the same per year, but one of them, Snell, is a 6-year contract. The other, Nola, is a 5-year deal. Which would you prefer?
I mean, this is obvious for me. It's Aaron Nola at 5 years. 24 mil a year, 5 years compared to 6 years of Blake Snell, which, if my projections are correct, I'm going whoa bacon right here. He'll be a bullpen arm for you in year 4, 5, and 6, and you're paying that $25 million a year. So I'm going Nola all day, every day, 5 years at 24 per. Here's Tanner. I don't give long-term contracts to young players, but Blake Snell, 6 years? Yes, sir.
I think I would side with Nola. That 6 years the thing that does it for me. And I know BK will yell at me about years because it's the same money. If this was a 5-year deal, I would probably do Snell. But that
Agreed.
6 years just a little too much for me.
I would do it with Snell for 5 years.
Because I think 4 to 5 years seems like a fairly good deal for Snell. Because I think you're going to get 3 good years out of the contract, I think, no matter what the deal is that's signed from Snell. After that's where we might be having the conversation about a bullpen arm. So I would probably side with Nola. I'd rather do the 5 years. It's less money, both over the long haul, and it is $1 million less AAV on the Snell deal. So I think I would take Aaron Nola here.
Now, I want to acknowledge on the front end, I could do this exact same thing with Aaron Nola in a different way, and we'd be having the same conversation. But just out of curiosity, does it worry you at all that this was the first time in 5 years that Blake Snell was both excellent in terms of ERA and also threw more than 130 innings?
No. I ain't scared.
Well, I'm scared just for a 4-year deal. I ain't scared.
Sure. That's why I would go with Nola. I feel like I know what I'm getting with Aaron Nola. Now, famous last words. It's a pitcher. He could totally break in spring training, and then you don't have him in the first year of the contract, and now you're like, whoa, okay, so I've signed this guy for stability, and he wasn't even able to be stable for me in year 1 of the 5-year deal. Totally acknowledge that you have to be open-ended to it. But 5 years, $120 million, I think I'm getting a steal here with Aaron Nola. So I would absolutely side with that side. I put this out on Twitter as well, by the way. You guys can get them at BK Sports Talk if you'd like to vote in them. So far, 82% of the votes are in favor of Aaron Nola, which is kind of what I expected going into it. All right, second tier. Tier 2 of the starting pitching market. Would you rather, Alex, sign Eduardo Rodriguez to a 4-year contract worth $72 million? That's an $18 million per year basis. Jordan Montgomery, bringing him back, 5 years, $106 million, $21 million per year. Or Sonny Gray, the guy that we all think that the Cardinals are probably going to sign, 3 years, $69 million, so $23 million per year. Rodriguez on 4 years at 18 per. Montgomery, 5 years, 21 per. Or Gray, 3 years, 23 per. Which would you prefer?
I think I'd go Eduardo Rodriguez here. Jordan Montgomery, no, I'm not going down that path again. It's between Sonny Gray and Eduardo Rodriguez. Man, the hard part for me is $23 million, and I know it's only 3 years, but $23 mil, so if my math serves me correctly and we know how the Cardinals work, there's no more moves unless you're making some type of significant trade.
Sonny Gray in this scenario is basically getting the same per-year basis as Aaron Nola, but he's getting it for 3 years instead of 5. And just to put that into context, what we're talking about there.
And I know Eduardo Rodriguez, I'm not sure what I'm getting, but when he has been with the team, healthy, and pitching.
It's amazing that you have to say.
I know.
When he's been available, in terms of being literally at the facility.
150 or more innings, and you're talking about a guy who is going to give you 25 to 30 starts.
He's a good starter, man.
If I could get that for 18 mil and I'm putting him in a number 2 spot, yeah, I'm doing that every day of the week over Sonny Gray.
I think that would be mine as well. I think people have underestimated what Eduardo Rodriguez is because he's been doing it in Detroit. Like, nobody wants to talk about the Detroit Tigers, and I don't blame any of you for it. He's not a great strikeout guy. He doesn't have the same swing and miss as Sonny Gray, but he's got some strikeout stuff. And he's got really good location for the most part. I think Rodriguez would be the guy that I'm going with. It's fewer years than Montgomery. It's a lot less money than Sonny Gray on a per-year basis. I would go Eduardo Rodriguez and see what that opens up for me elsewhere.
I think I would take Sonny Gray. I think he's just got the best stuff of these three. And I hear what you guys are saying with Eduardo Rodriguez. I don't have a good feel for Rodriguez. I don't know why. And I don't think the industry does either. I think it's why his contract's projected so low. I'm definitely not giving Monty 5-year contract. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, agreed.
I think Sonny Gray's got the best stuff, and it's shorter term, and I understand that it's going to bring the AAV up, but I would want him as my number 2. And if you're telling me that means I'm going to squeeze myself out of the 5, then okay, I'll go trade for somebody to be that number 5 and bring in more depth. If I sign Gray,
Nola?
I think their offseason, if you said to me, okay, I actually have to operate on the budget, I would trade for Cease then. I would trade for Cease, I'd then sign Sonny Gray, and then I would spend on our number 5.
So maybe this is a good way to frame it. Would you rather trade Nolan Gorman and others, but just like that's the headliner, Nolan Gorman for Cease and then sign Sonny Gray? Or, and by the way, you're losing a second-round pick in that scenario as well by signing Sonny Gray. Or sign Aaron Nola, you lose a second-round pick there, so it's a 1-for-1. And then sign Eduardo Rodriguez. Which one would you prefer?
I would probably go the trading route. And I don't want to get rid of Gorman.
You get a third starter. I do not.
Yeah. I would go the third.
I'd go trading route too, because as much as I like Rodriguez over Sonny Gray, you do need strikeout stuff. Yep. And the only way you're going to get that is in a trade, because I don't think the guys that you should be signing that has strikeout stuff benefit you in the long run.
In the poll, 47% agree with you guys, Sonny Gray. 37% say bring back Jordan Montgomery. That would be my last choice of these options that are available.
Oh, yeah.
And then 15% are with me going with Eduardo Rodriguez. All right, final one here. This is the number 5 starter range, right? The guys that you're bringing in to round out whatever it is that you've done in your rotation. I think these are the types of pitchers that we're going to be discussing in this range. There are others that we could throw into the mix that are more bounce-back candidates. But if you're looking for more certainty/swing guys, I think these are the players that are probably going to be discussed for the Cardinals. Would you rather? There are 4 of them. Seth Lugo, 3 years, $36 million. Michael Lorenzen, 2 years, $28 million. Michael Wacha, 2 years, $26 million, or Nick Martinez, 2 years, $25. So basically everybody is 2 to 3 years at $12 to $14 million. And it comes down to which of these pitchers do you want? Alex, when you think about those four guys, who to you stands out among the mix?
I think I would go Seth Lugo or Nick Martinez, because that third guy is a starter but also a bullpen arm for me. And I'm not sure Michael Wacha can be that for you. And who is the other one? Lorenzen, yeah. I mean, Lorenzen has been a bullpen guy, but I'm not sure you're going to get the best out of Lorenzen in the starting side of it. I think I would lean more towards Seth Lugo, because it seems he's at least mastered that art of being somebody that you can use as a spot starter or somebody consistently as a 5-starter. And then if Zach Thompson takes off, or if you've got more guys that look like they're starting to be competent rotation arms, I could put Seth Lugo in my bullpen. He'll also be very effective.
If Lugo's deal comes down to 2 years, I'm in on Seth Lugo. If it's going to be 3-4 years, I'm out. I don't think you should be handing out a 3-4 year deal for a guy that's a swingman / number 5 starter.
34 this year.
Yeah, I mean that's the mistake they made with the Matz deal, was it just ended up being too many years for a guy in the mid-tier market. This is the below mid-tier market, so I would actually take the side of Michael Wacha.
I think that's where I'm at too.
I
can't believe I'm here, but here we are.
I understand what you were saying, where he just hasn't come out of the bullpen. He's done it a little bit, but my whole goal of bringing in Wacha is I'm going to bring him in as a true starter. And then Zach Thompson is the depth guy. And then when Wacha gets hurt after 20 starts, or he only makes 20, 23 starts, Thompson then fills in. That's how I ideally visualize the offseason, is Wacha fills in 20 of that number 5 spot, Thompson fills in the rest.
I think that's where I would be as well. My number 2, though, would be Nick Martinez. Nick Martinez would be my second option out of this group. I would go Wacha 1, Martinez 2, Lugo 3. That third year does scare me. I'm totally with you on that, T-Bone. And then Michael Lorenzen would be my last option from this group. More money. I don't know that he's significantly better than these guys that we're talking about. So that would be my ranking of them. I think Michael Wacha is just a good pitcher, man. He's found who he is as a starter. Now, that does not mean that he's going to be excellent. You're expecting him to throw like 120 to 130 innings for you next year. You're not expecting him to be some wipeout guy that's going to come in and strike out 10 batters per 9 innings. That's not who he is. But if you want him to be really solid for you in that number 5 spot as a starter for you, he's more than capable of becoming that for you. And I think the same thing could be true to an extent of Nick Martinez. Now, the question is, do they want more of a number 5 starter or more of a bullpen arm? Martinez falls more into the bullpen arm. Wacha is more of the starter. And depending on what they get at the front end of the rotation, I think that will help to describe what they want out of the back end of their rotation. And it's why when yesterday I saw the quote from John Mozeliak saying, hey, we want to get 2 starters first, then take a step back, reevaluate where we are, and then we'll kind of continue on and finish out the offseason. I think that's really what he's talking about there. Depending on what they get as their top 2 guys in the rotation, that will inform their decisions on back end of the bullpen versus back end of the rotation. So I think I would go Michael Wacha here, but I find all of these to be really close calls, man. And this is where the Cardinals just have to get the evaluation right. They cannot be wrong. They got to go 3 for 3, too. They can't miss on any of these dudes. And when you get into that scenario, I think you try to mitigate risk. And the less risk comes with Aaron Nola, Sonny Gray, and Seth Lugo, probably. Like, those are the 3 guys that have the least amount of risk of the 3 buckets that we just discussed.
I don't know if that third bucket has anybody that's mitigated risk, because that was the first. This was the first year Lugo was a true starter. I mean, previously
but
he had been just a bullpen.
He's been good in the bullpen.
Yeah.
So at worst case scenario, you got a $12 million bullpen arm, which guess what? That's what all these guys are getting anyways. Like, you look at what people are projecting right now for Jordan Hicks or Reynaldo Lopez or who was the other one? Michael, I forget his last name, but the other one that's coming from Tampa Bay. Yes, Stevenson. Those guys are all projected $10 to $12 million on a 3-year deal right now too. So it's pretty similar in terms of what you're getting from Lugo.
Part of me, the third starter, there are 2 other names that I'd bring up. One in a trade, and I heard Stoltz and them discuss this yesterday about Alek Manoah, finding a way to trade for him with the Blue Jays.
We're getting to that.
Third starter. And then the other one for me, I got this fascination with Luis Severino. And I know the injuries are nervous, but I mean, at his best, we're talking about a guy who could be a number 3 for you.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, you all just went way over budget. Wasn't about, like, is this the offseason that the Cardinals will have?
Damn it.
If you were shopping in these individual buckets, which one would you prefer?
Why didn't you make us more prudent about the decisions we were making?
Since when is the text line worried about the budget?
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line if you would like to get involved in the show. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, it is time for our baseball offseason roundup. But next, it's time for the junk drawer here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, I heard somebody say something yesterday. I was like, people actually do that? Is that a real thing?
Okay.
So I wanted to ask you to get your thoughts on it.
Because you probably know I do it, don't you?
So I was
You
reading
son
this
of a-
story, and it was just this whole thing, and basically what I want to get out of it is, do you guys eat while you're in the restroom? Like, would you consider doing that?
Oh, hell yeah, I would.
Whether you're on the toilet or you're getting ready to hop in the shower, whatever it might be. Like, not because you're in a rush, but I'm looking for a calming environment, and therefore the place that I can find it is the restroom.
Calming environment might not be the way to go with this, but it's an environment nonetheless.
You do that?
I'm out.
I've done it. I'm all about time. I'm all about time equity, you know, trying to make sure that I use my time wisely. You're telling me that you guys have never looked at your toilet in the bathroom and said, there's a table right next to it.
No, not once.
So rather than sitting facing forward, it's just turn around and you got a little table that you can have your breakfast.
So it's like if I turned this chair around, basically.
Just like this. You're going to sit on it
like
AC
that.
Slater style.
And just
T-Bone
went-
doesn't get that reference.
Just started eating off of the back of the toilet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at this. You wake up in the morning and you're thinking, man, I'm in a rush. I need to eat breakfast. I got to shower. I got to brush my teeth. I can do all of that in one sitting. I'm going to sit down, drop the trousers, eat some food, hop in the shower, brush my teeth because breakfast is already done. I've already had the morning bathroom go around. And now I just get out, put clothes on, and I'm out the door.
Now, we've got a lot of people that are texting in that are suggesting shower beers are excellent.
Shower coffee's
Now that's
excellent
the
too.
thing.
Totally agree.
I've had shower coffees.
beers
I've done
are a
that.
top 5 beer.
Oh, yeah.
Right after a lawn mowing beer, right after a workout beer. Those are, I think shower beer might be 3. You know, patio beers are always excellent as well in the
Solid
summer.
choice.
I don't
You guys
know
are missing
that
out on the toilet breakfast.
Toilet
I'm
breakfast.
out. I don't want my food going in that room.
Look at me. Look, like I'm not talking about having a steak dinner in there. I'm talking about in the morning when you're in a rush, you know, you might just pop in a Pop-Tart while you're sitting down going to the restroom.
Somebody
I'm
on the
out.
text line said, when you guys have kids, you'll realize that the bathroom is the only time that you have time alone.
And look,
I understand that. I just don't want my food in the bathroom with me.
It's
While
going
I'm
in
doing
somewhere.
my business.
Look, and
I
then
don't
the other
want to be
factor
eating
into this,
food.
this thing's a great place to take a nap. Like you're just sitting there and you finish your breakfast, you're reading, you're getting up to date on all the sports stories, reading, and the next thing you know, man, I could shut my eyes for 5 minutes and just out cold on the toilet.
Everything that you need to do as a human: drinking, eating, sleeping, taking care of your business.
You do it in
all
the
of
bathroom.
it. Alex is like, why don't I do this in the bathroom?
I can get all of this done. My morning is essentially done in 15 minutes. Look, I do. Sometimes when you got IBS, by the time you finish your food, you're going there
my
anyway. So why not just take care of it there?
Somebody said, guys, this show is almost bearable when you're talking about sports, but this tips it over the edge at times.
I mean, you think it tips it over the edge? I'm just basically telling you, save some time.
Coming up in 15 minutes.
Take advantage of your appliances is what I'm trying to get at, T-Bone.
You're
Joey
disgusting.
Vitale is going to join the show. He is being inducted tonight into the Hall of Fame.
Northeastern Hall of
For
Fame.
Northeastern. So we're going to congratulate him on that. We'll talk to Joey about what he's expecting from Joel Hofer, who's expected to start in net for the Blues tonight, and Scott Perunovich, who's getting an opportunity in the lineup too. So we'll get into all of that with Joey Vitale coming up in about 15 minutes or so. But coming up next, it is time for the latest edition of the baseball offseason
Roundup! Yeah!
You're on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about his dentist, My Dentist 100 West Dental. Look, when it comes to your overall health, specifically with your mouth, you need to be making sure you have the proper dentist. Somebody that is focusing not just on the health of your teeth, the health of your gums, the health of your overall body, but also the health of it moving forward. They are all about preventative procedures at 100 West Dental. They got a brand new office off of Manchester that has the most modern technology. And if you've got dental insurance, man, take advantage of these final couple of months to get in and use the rest of that insurance money so that the insurance company doesn't get it back at the end of the year. And the best part, they got a cool promo going on right now. If you go into 100 West Dental and mention my name at your next appointment, you'll get $1,000 off an Invisalign package. So go out there, tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. You could schedule online, 100westdental.com, or call them at 636-585-0100. Get with the best, 100 West.
It's my favorite time. I love it. I love it so much. I'm going to miss this while I'm in Austin this weekend. I'm going to just start walking around in Austin, Texas, be like, yeah!
You're going to the. You're good. Jesus, you sound like a dying chicken. You're going to the.
We've got a farm animal in the studio.
Someone let the goose out of the backyard. You're going to like the crown jewel of roundups.
That's gonna be great.
You should be. You need to buy
You
yourself
should bring
some
your
chaps.
cowboy hat.
Yeah, buy some chaps.
I'm gonna find Bevo, the
Bieber?
Texas
Justin Bieber?
Longhorns live mascot.
Oh,
You're gonna steal them and bring them back to St. Louis.
Absolutely, he's gonna come on the plane with us.
I'm in.
Hell yeah,
As you know, as a father who has flown before with children, I'm flying with everything else, so I might as well bring Bevo back with us.
Oh, yeah. We went to Disney World, and I think we packed our entire house. Although, I'll tell you, my wife is a champ when it comes to packing things in a very little time, like in a small. We got to Disney World for 4 days with one suitcase.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
And 2 carry-ons. It was impressive.
We're not doing that.
Well, you should call my wife. She'll get you on board.
All right, let's get into our baseball offseason.
Roundup, yeah!
Let's start with the latest update on the Cardinals. This comes from John Denton over at
We got a dead
Cardinals.com.
cowboy.
Someone horse needs to be taken out back.
John Denton was talking with John Mozeliak yesterday. By the way, the GM meetings have been canceled.
Why?
I don't know if you guys saw this.
What
They're
happened?
Sick.
The norovirus is going through.
Oh, shoot.
I've had the norovirus. I get it. Been there. Don't blame you at all.
Is that why Mo didn't really get his message out correctly the first day of it? Because he was sick?
So
I get it, Mo.
Mo said yesterday, quote, "We certainly feel like we need at least 2 starters. I think we have some bullpen talent that we could arrange, but we're not going to close ourselves off to the reliever market either. We are going to take a more patient approach on that to allow other things to take place." Then Denton reported that the Cardinals have approximately $143 million on the books. They could have approximately $50 million to spend this offseason. Alex, does this make you feel better than the reports that came out the other day about the Cardinals?
Yeah, $50 million makes me feel a lot more optimistic than Mo using the word prudent about our decisions and thinking that this team's going to spend $30 million and say, great offseason, guys. I'm still concerned on what the level of talent the 2 starters are going to be. And now Mo's pushing back on the 3rd starter because our internal options are so great because, you know, what we saw from Matthew Liberatore down the stretch gave us real optimism. But if you've got $50 million to spend, it does give me a little bit more hope that they're going to be aggressive in the right fronts and bring in the right guys.
I don't know why, but now that I know the number, I don't feel any better. In fact, I might feel worse.
Why?
Because they're going to spend $50
million on Michael
I didn't like
Wacha?
hearing it for true. No, because I I now know they probably got to trade for a
They're
starter.
getting
And they
Lugo-
probably got to get rid of Gorman, and I don't want to do that.
$50
now I don't
million
feel better
on
about it.
Lugo
I've been
Waka.
telling you this.
I
for
know,
months.
but I don't listen to you. You know, now that Mo's telling me reality, I don't like it.
That's fair.
I liked it better when Mo didn't say anything. Then I could just
Continuing
speculate all I
along,
want.
This comes from Derek Gould of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch.
Oh, hold on. Did you just transition?
Yeah.
Oh, that does
Quote,
hurt.
there's not an
telling you.
abundance of hitters on the open market for teams that are looking for an upgrade in their lineup. This is where the Cardinals come in. Outfielders Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson are two players that the Cardinals expect to receive interest from this winter. The Cardinals have also collected infield depth on the roster in case there is a move for a starter that requires them to deal one of their left-handed hitting infielders. Checks the roster. Gorman and Donovan would fit into that criteria. Guys, it sounds like the trade route might be in play for the Cardinals. Let's go through a few of the options. Again, this comes from Derek Gould. Let's start with the Yankees. That is a team that has been mentioned in discussions for with the Cardinals for, years, honestly.
Here
but
comes
at
back
least over the
Schmitty.
next few months. Nope.
Clark Schmitty, ladies and gentlemen.
According to Derek Gould, the Cardinals, the Yankees see the Cardinals as a team that they could line up with for a trade. He adds that at the trade deadline, the Cardinals were looking for young pitchers from the Yankees, such as Clayton Beeter. He is a AAA pitcher for them right now. He's a pretty high upside type of a player. He also says that the Cardinals had interest in one of their relievers. The Yankees had interest in the deadline in Dylan Carlson. We don't know where that stands right now, but they've been talking to the Cardinals about Donovan and Burleson as two guys that they would like. I would not trade Donovan for anybody that I currently see available from the Yankees. I don't see a pitcher from them that would be realistic that I would trade Brendan Donovan for.
I'm not trading Brendan Donovan for anybody who's in AAA.
I agree.
I'm trading Brendan Donovan for a Major League Baseball established pitcher.
Now, you want to talk Burleson? That's a different conversation. Those are two very different calibers of players.
I even feel like Burleson's also in this conversation to where, like, I'm only attaching him in a package for somebody in the major leagues. Like, if you're giving me Clayton Beeter,
he'll be in the Cardinals rotation next year. So he's not a guy that's like in the TK Roby
but I
range.
haven't seen it at the major league level, and I'm not gonna. The only guys that I'll put in for a Clayton Beeter is take your pick: Carlson, O'Neill, Juan Yepez, Sajaci,
But
any
those
of these
guys
guys.
aren't getting you him.
Well, then I'm not making a deal with them because Burleson and Donovan are going for major league talent.
I would trade Burley for Beeter. I would. Burley doesn't really have a solidified role here. And what I mean by that is a solidified starting role. I think he's got a role as a bench bat here. But if you're telling me I can trade a bench bat for Clayton Beeter, who's got maybe a little bit of upside, and you've got control on as a number 5 starter for the next 6-7 years, then yeah, I think I'm willing to pull off that deal. Now, I'm not adding much more in that package. It's basically got to be a 1-for-1 swap. But I agree with you guys. I wouldn't do it for Donovan. I would do it for Burley, though.
Yeah, Clayton Beeter, for those curious, is 25 years old. This past season, he split the year in AA and AAA, threw 130 innings overall, which is pretty damn good compared to what you see from most of these prospects. He did have his struggles, though, last year at AAA. Had a high strikeout rate. He's had a high strikeout rate his entire minor league career, but walks the world. He's got a walk issue. He was walking 5 batters per 9 innings, and this is something that's been a sustained issue for him in his entire career. And while he was at AAA, had a 4.95 ERA, and according to some of the advanced numbers, he actually got a little lucky to have a 4.95 ERA last season.
All hitter-friendly park.
Why don't we all get lucky, you know?
Continuing along with our baseball offseason roundup, another AL East team is reportedly interested in a Cardinals outfielder. According to Ben Nicholson-Smith, a baseball writer for Sportsnet, the Blue Jays are looking at potentially moving on this offseason from Alek Manoah. And he wondered, could Dylan Carlson be the type of player that they would look at to acquire for Alek Manoah? Alex Manoah this past offseason was horrendous and then was sent away and basically disappeared for the second half of the year. 2 years ago, though, he was an all-star and was considered to be one of the better pitchers in the sport. Would you consider buying low on Alek Manoah?
Yes, 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 and yes. I mean, this is, look, it might blow up in your face, but if I'm not mistaken, he's still pretty cost effective, and you got, what, a couple years tied up in it before you'd have to really pay him?
2028 is when he would be a free agent.
I mean, yes, you're basically trading out a guy that you really couldn't get the best out of, and you hope maybe the reclamation project works elsewhere, and you're bringing in the same guy. I mean, this guy was sent down to AAA for Toronto last year because they couldn't figure out what's wrong with him. Now, The Cardinals are they're not the poster child of figuring out what the issue is for starting pitchers, but maybe they fix this. I would do this in a heartbeat, and frankly, this would be a move I would jump on right now.
A lot of risk. I mean, it's possible he doesn't pitch for you next year.
But I'm not just doing this. Like, I'm also doing Nola and Gray and probably bringing in another.
If you're doing this, you've got him as your 5-starter next year.
Yeah.
He's competing with Thompson and those other guys.
But my 5-starter has the upside of being an ace.
Absolutely. But he's also got the downside of not throwing a pitch for you.
And it's not costing me anything other than a guy who might not be in the outfield for me next year.
I don't think I would do it. I saw Manoah pitch this year. Something's broken, and I don't know if I want to try and fix it. I would rather get some more certainty to bring in instead of bringing in a guy that's competing with Thompson and them to be the 5. I just think Manoah's broken. I don't know if there's fixing him this year.
I'm trying. I would genuinely be curious on the text line. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. What is the comparison for what has taken place with Manoah? Where suddenly, just overnight, he goes from 3rd in the Cy Young voting to potentially never being a significant pitcher again in the major leagues. I can't remember a time where there was that kind of a career arc without there being significant injuries in play. And it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like this is something mentally that's gone wrong with him.
Maybe you need a new place.
Maybe. And so that is why I would probably do it. I would. I'm saving a lot of money here. And that's part of what I'm factoring in. If I'm trading Dylan Carlson, who I don't think is going to be a significant part of their plans next year, for Alek Manoah, he's costing me nothing. So that's $1 million for my number 5 starter potentially next year. Now I can go out and do Nola plus Sonny Gray. And I've got some flexibility still if I end up trading somebody like Tyler O'Neill. That is something that could really make some sense for them. I trade Tyler O'Neill. Now I can add a $5 to $10 million reliever as well. Cooking with gas here, man. You add Sonny Gray, Aaron Nola, Alek Manoah to this roster, you got some serious upside in that rotation.
God, yeah.
And I've got a lot of stability at the front end to make up for the potential liability.
I mean, how
that
much is
Alek
Carlson
Manoah.
Making next year?
Nothing.
But what I'm saying is, like, it's offsetting money. You're bringing in a guy who's making nothing for a guy who's making nothing. And I know there's a group that's listening right now thinking, well, Dylan Carlson's a star. You just haven't given him a chance. Yeah, I'm past that now. And I got a dude who could be an ace and has only been in the majors for 2 years.
It's really, to me, not even about the Dylan Carlson part. It's about the opportunity cost of acquiring Alek Manoah and slotting him into the number 5 spot in your rotation instead of one of those other guys that we were talking about previously. So it's Manoah versus going and spending $10 to $12 million on a Nick Martinez, a Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, etc. That's really the question that you've got to ask there is, are you comfortable enough with Manoah to say that he's going to outperform those guys or that it's worth it given the money that you're able to spend there? And I think my answer would be yes. I am with you, Alex, but it is certainly a risky proposition. All right, final thing here. We'll get to this really quickly before we get to Joey Vitale on the other side in our baseball offseason
Roundup, yeah! I'm running out of gas here, guys.
According to Ken Rosenthal, the Brewers are selling everything. They're done. They're blowing it up. This is over.
So we could get
Craig
Corbin
Counsell
Burns?
was the final straw for them. Yes. It sounds like even if if you wanted to call them on Christian Yelich, they might listen to you right now.
Ooh.
We can all agree Brewers not somebody that the Cardinals have to worry about next year, right?
But you just said. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're done.
This town ain't big enough for the two of us.
But it is big enough for the Cardinals and the Cubs.
Yeah.
That is the top of the division now.
You didn't draw, man.
Coming up next, Joey Vitale, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and Bally Sports Midwest here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's, the famous frozen custard location just off of Chippewa, where, man, there are so many people that are out there this time of the year. I know it's fall. I know it's getting to be cold. That's not going to stop you from getting the delicious frozen custard that has been a St. Louis tradition since 1929. When you say Ted Drew's, you think not just frozen custard, but you think spending time together in the backseat of your car or in the trunk, eating Ted Drew's, talking about life. I love doing that with my family. I loved doing it with my family, so you need to start that now. And while you're out at Ted Drew's, where you can pick from every flavor you can think of, walk across the parking lot. Check out their new gift shop, which has all sorts of apparel. It's got kids, it's got adults, it's got hats, drinkware. You can even buy gift cards, which is the perfect holiday gift to give to somebody so that they can prepare for springtime and get that famous frozen custard. So get on out there, check them out just off of Chippewa, and find out why Ted Drew's famous frozen custard really is good guys and gals.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, there is one thing that Adam Ottavino and Joey Vitale have in common.
Oh, yeah?
And it's not that they have both once been in St. Louis. It is that they are both Hall of Famers for Northeastern University. As of today, our friend Joey Vitale getting inducted into the Northeastern Sports Hall of Fame. Joey, first of all, a huge congratulations from all of us here at 101 ESPN. How you doing today, my friend?
Joey! Ah, you're a Hall of Famer!
Hey, this isn't good for my ego. I need to be checking my ego in every now and then. This is not healthy for me, but at the same time, I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate it. Yes, I'm in Boston now. I actually just left talking to the men's hockey team. They're off heading to practice right now, so the head coach, Jerry O'Keefe, asked me to come in and chat with the fellas. So just leaving there and walking down the streets of Huntington Ave here in Boston as we speak.
Joe, what was the motivational speech before practice? Was it about hockey or was it about male or female anatomy?
Hey, you know what, Alex? I appreciate you asking that. I kept it between the lines because, listen, I don't get a chance to talk to these kids all that often, so I didn't want them thinking I was a complete weirdo and wacko. But no, I kept it very, very hockey based, and just share my experiences and this organization and this team, and has really taken on a life of its own up here. My freshman year, we only won 3 games the entire season, and of course now you look at Northeastern as a continual powerhouse year after year. So with O'Keefe and Jim Madigan, Greg Cronin, now the Ducks coach here in the NHL. certainly all part of this moving part of history, which is such a terrific team. But I just told them to enjoy the moment, and the best advice I got was what I conveyed to them is what Richard Park and pretty much Brooks Orpik, two different conversations had with me in my playing days, which is you just want to be at peace when this whole thing's over. I'm looking around the locker room. I see seniors. I see freshmen. I see first-round draft picks. I see undrafted players, and it's just a conglomerate of kids. But, they all had the same desire. They all had that burning desire to accomplish what they want to accomplish, which is to play in the National Hockey League. And I just conveyed to them what Richard Park and Brooks Orpik, my former teammates in Pittsburgh, on separate conversations, the discussion with me, which was when I was struggling and had a lot of uncertainties in my career, basically the message was, to continue always to focus on what's in your control and just showing up and being focused with that determination every single day. If you do that, and that's what I told the kids, it goes, you guys do that every single day, I promise you one thing. I can't promise you're going to make it to the NHL, but I can promise you that you're gonna end this thing with a level of peace, in your heart and your soul and your mind, and that's essentially what every player wants. You want to walk away from this game whenever it happens, knowing, looking back, that man, I did everything I could every single day. Because if that's the feeling you're left with, that's going to be a good feeling. I promise you're going to be okay.
Joey, I am a little upset with you because I didn't know this until today as I looked it up. You and Jamie Alexiak went to the same school, and you didn't help us get him here in St. Louis. That was Alex's guy,
man.
You know it. The Big O. The Big O. He was a trailblazer here of the St. Louis. Bruce Racine, all the guys. The big fellow on the back end. Alexiak was here. Adam Gaudette, who's now the leading goal scorer right now in the American Hockey League for yours truly, Springfield, the Springfield Thunderbirds, the Blues Farm. I'm waiting for him to get called up. There's a lot of NU alums floating around the league now, guys. Look out.
Man, was he always a Mongoon, Joe? Was he always like the toughest man on the ice?
I remember him on The Visit. I remember there was just this. I thought it was like someone's older brother, or like this guy doing like fighting overseas or something. He was just this like mean green guy. Just had an attitude about him on his visit. I think it was my senior year. He was still 2 years away, I think, from college. But he was twice the size of everyone we went out with, and he was just an absolute moose. So no, I remember him very well, and it's great to see him, and as well as all these other great NU alums. Levi, goaltender for Buffalo, certainly doing some great things in the league as well. This has become slowly over the last 2 decades. Like I said, it's been a school that it used to be the bottom feeder, where whoever didn't get into BC, BU, and Harvard would go to Northeastern. Now it's kind of flipped a little bit. They're on the same level as all these schools, and they have so much to offer. So it's great to see that.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Manson went there as well. My guy, Zach Aston Reese, is from there.
Yeah.
Like, you guys exclusively produce mutants. All of these guys are like 6'5" and 240 pounds, Joe. It doesn't make any sense.
It's something in the Fenway Wada. It's in the Wada.
All right,
Or the
Joe.
chowder.
Let's talk a little bit about this Blues team before we get you out of here and let you get on with your day, which is obviously just such an awesome day for you, man. We're all so incredibly happy for you. It does look like Scott Perunovich is going to get an opportunity in the lineup tonight. He's going to be out there for the power play as well. What are you expecting out of Scott Perunovich tonight?
Just to get into a rhythm. I've been, if there was one player, you're like, gosh, we got to get him in. Gosh, we got to get him in. And you show up to the game and you look at the roster and you see number 48 still out. You're like, man, we got to figure out a way to get this young man in the lineup. Different reasons than like a Robert Bortuzzo. Robert Bortuzzo, a very different player, different time in his career. He knows that he's looking at, between 30, 40 games this year, maybe. Hopefully some injuries on his end would kind of benefit him to get in. But he's a 30, 40 gamer, and he knows it, right? He's at the tail end. He's just looking to contribute any way he can. Scott's very different. Scott needs to get in there. He needs to get some rhythm. He's got to find the reps. He's got to, get beat one-on-one. He's got to be battling in front of the net. Get out there and hear the oohs and the ahs and the boos on the power play and feel what that's like. But to do it 3, 4, 5 games in a row is going to really, really benefit Scott. I like to see him get in there and really find a good 3 to 4 games. One thing about Craig Berube, he understands what it was like to be a player, to be out for 5, 6 games, to come in for one, play minimal minutes, and then get booted again. It's hard. It's really hard to find a rhythm when you're just coming in every so often and then get pulled right back out. So I think with Scott Perunovich coming in, regardless of how he plays tonight, I think he's going to get another opportunity in Colorado on Saturday, and then you move on to Tampa at home next Tuesday. I do believe we're going to see a grouping of games for him to try to get him up to speed. I think Tyler Tucker had a great start to the season. I think his gaps and his closures have been a little bit slow lately. I think they see that. So it's a perfect opportunity to get a young Scott Perunovich in there, move it around, snap it around. I think moving the puck tonight is going to be a huge thing with this Arizona Coyotes team that loves transitions. Have a player back there that can make a good tape-to-tape pass is going to be a benefit here for St. Louis.
Joey, we appreciate the time, man. I know this is a huge day for you, so to take a little bit out of it to come on here with us and deal with our shenanigans, we genuinely appreciate it. Enjoy yourself up in Boston, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Congrats, buddy.
Hey, sounds good, boys. Hey, I appreciate you guys as well. You guys have a great rest of the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome.
Absolutely. That's Joey Vitale, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN and Bally Sports Midwest. If you missed the news, he's being inducted today into the Northeastern Sports Hall of Fame. Just an unbelievable honor, man. It's so cool. I mean, Mizzou certainly would never induct me into any kind of Hall of Fame.
Oh, man,
but in all
I
seriousness,
hope Lindenwood puts me in one.
well, Randy
Shout out, Linden, if you're listening. I'm ready.
Pretty sure Amzinger and Randy are in it.
Yeah, they are. But
Dan is in it, I think. A lot
probably.
of guys that are not named
I'll get
Alex
there.
Ferrario.
I'll get there. Why'd you have to say it like that, man? Damn.
Well,
now you're cut out of my acceptance speech.
Totally fair.
Tebow,
Can I
you
be
could be in
number
it. Yeah,
one?
you could be in it.
My first thanks would be to my great producer, Tanner Hendrickson. Nice.
Not my wife, not my family.
Yeah.
Just Tanner Hendrickson.
Clearly number two.
It's an amazing honor for Joe. Get back to
I was going to say, what were we talking about here?
And he deserves all of it, man. He's one of the greatest people that you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I mean, he was a captain of the team his junior season. Of course, made it to the NHL, played with Sidney Crosby. I mean, what a career. And it's awesome for Joey V. And I know his wife's up there. His parents are up there with him. So it's going to be a really cool weekend. And for those that are wondering, he's in Boston. He's not on the call tonight. Mike McKenna is actually filling in for Joey V on this game tonight with Chris Kerber.
Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, we will hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind. But, hey, man, it's Thursday. Getting ready to go out on vacation. There was only one way to get out of here in the 1:30
My voice isn't ready for this.
Toughen up.
The weather's kind of messing with mine as well. We're going to really lean on T-Bone in this.
This is how I'm getting into the Lewis and Clark Hall of Fame right here.
With your singing?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Believe it or
Can I
not,
be in
it's
your
next
acceptance
here on
speech?
101
Sure.
ESPN. Hey, it's BK. You just couldn't pick a worse time than right now to sell your home. Sure, it's worth a small fortune, but are you really going to swap out that 2, maybe 3% interest rate and pay 7 or 8 on a new house? I don't think so. You don't have to do that when you get the Get Paid and Stay program with Truehold. This is going to be something where with the Get Paid and Stay program, Truehold will buy your home now at its best current value, and you get to bank the cash while you continue staying in your homes until interest rates come back down, or you just stay there as long as you'd like. Totally your call. Plus, you won't have to pay that property taxes anymore. You don't have to pay insurance. You don't have to pay for the upkeep. Truehold is going to take care of all of those expenses for you. Learn more about Truehold's Get Paid and Stay program by calling 1-855-300-9993 or visit them at Truehold.com for the smarter and faster way to cash out on your home's full value without having to move. That's Truehold.com.
Terry Hendricks and USA Sports Center update brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues back in action tonight as they host the Arizona Coyotes, and we'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, and then puck drop at 7 with Chris Kerber. And if you missed it earlier, we had the chance to catch up with the Arizona Coyotes GM, Bill Armstrong. You can check that out on our podcast page, 101ESPN.com. This Sports Center update was brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Get the voice in.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
Free.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer.
Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
314-399-9646 is the Air
Thanks,
Comfort
buddy.
Service
I'll
text
send it to
line
Lindenwood for me.
for
I meant
Believe
for
It
me.
or Not. You give us a scenario, we'll tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN. That just hits a little different when you're going on vacation the next day.
Was it flying away on a wing and a prayer? Because
Are you going to be humming it while you're on your plane tonight?
Dude, I'll be honest with you. Last night when I was going through our rundown, because I start setting stuff up and I sent it to you guys last night, I started singing it.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I won't lie. Sometimes I play it.
I got one
on my phone while I'm in the shower.
I got one to kick us off.
Go ahead.
Believe it or not, BK is going to fall asleep on the plane and leave his wife to take care of their little baby.
Oh, believe it.
Yeah, I mean, was that in doubt?
Yeah.
Typical. I slept on the plane ride to Disney.
Sounds all right. My wife can't sleep on planes, and I always sleep on planes. So there's a pretty decent chance that happens.
Good.
Hopefully Luca falls asleep. We're
if you
hoping
go,
and praying.
That's the number one person you'll fall
Key
asleep.
for you, though, if you go into the bathroom on an airplane, they don't have one of those things that you can sit on and hold your food. So just be aware. You have to eat at your
I
seat.
can't believe you brought that up again. All right, let's play a
Nice
game of
callback. That's Hall of Fame worthy right there. By the way, I meant our Believe It or Not belonged in the Radio Hall of Fame. I learned there's a thing just the other day about that.
You should clip this and send it to us.
This is definitely deserving of a Marconi.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah.
This show and specifically this segment.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, believe it or not,
talking sports.
the Cardinals finished the offseason and they did not sign one of Yamamoto, Blake Snell, or Aaron Nola. When this offseason is over, all three of those players have selected a team that is not named the Cardinals, believe it or not.
I'll believe it. I think that ace is going to be in a trade. I'm starting to really believe Dylan Cease or Logan Gilbert are going to be a part of the Cardinals, and that's their big move. And then the second guy is the one they spend $18 to $20 million on, and they overpay maybe for a fifth starter. So I'm going to believe this one. I think they end the offseason without any of those top-tier guys. You know it. Just say it.
I'm going to believe it, too. I think the top dog's coming from outside the organization via trade. So I don't think they're going to sign one of those three. I think they'll probably trade for Cease or Glasnow, sign somebody in that second tier. That way they have money for that third starter, and then some money for a bullpen arm.
I genuinely believe the Cardinals are signing one of Nola or Sonny Gray, and I can't decide who I think they're more likely to sign. I'm getting mixed messages with the Nola market, man. I can't tell based on all of the reports if he's going to end up being the guy that is squeezed or if he's going to end up being the one that a lot of teams end up valuing because there are so few pitchers that are giving them innings. I don't know. Historically speaking, he's the one that gets squeezed. He doesn't have the strikeout stuff. There is nothing that stands out about his profile as a pitcher. He doesn't have overwhelming velocity. Like, none of that jumps off the page in a way that would tell you $30 million a year. None of it. It doesn't match what the other guys are in previous years that have been paid the way that some are suggesting Nola will. But we're in a weird time in Major League Baseball right now, where none of these pitchers are going deep into games, and we just saw a postseason in which the thing that was most valuable was pitchers getting deep into games. So is this going to be a throwback offseason, much like the managers, where we now see the guy that goes deep into a game get rewarded for doing so with his new salary? It's possible, but there are so many reports from reputable people that are saying, 5 years, 125 feels like the ceiling for Aaron Nola, where I'm like, man, if that is the range that he's looking at, the Cardinals have to do that. If you're talking about $23 million for Sonny Gray or $25 for Aaron Nola, just go get Aaron Nola, man. I like Sonny Gray a lot. You guys know that. Aaron Nola's better. He's younger. The contracts will take him actually not as deep into his career as the Sonny Gray one will. He will be younger when then the 5-year deal for Nola ends than the 3-year deal for Sonny Gray does. So I'm going to say nah. I'm not believing this because I think they will eventually convince themselves what I just did, which is that Aaron Nola has to be the guy.
Look, he just spent 2 minutes saying that he's essentially a John Mozeliak fanboy, and he only wants to believe that Mo does the right thing.
Alex, what do you got for us, buddy?
Go, Mo.
Come on, you're going to be great this offseason. Woo!
Man!
I wear snorkeling gear, too.
I'm going to be over here with one of those, like,
Sign
number
my
one
chest,
fan.
Mo.
The sign / flag.
Yeah.
I'm going to be waving
it.
As the wind continues to progressively get faster and faster.
It's like the Simpsons guy. I'm in danger.
In the middle of 120-mile-per-hour winds, there's hurricanes that are on the horizon. It's fine. Everything's going to be fine.
All right, guys, believe it or not, Scott Perunovich is part of a power play goal tonight.
I believe it. Why not?
Not this power play. Woo! I need to look this up. I was wondering if it's possible that they could have a lower power play success percentage and points percentage of the Sharks this year. Seems pretty likely.
Well,
this team's going to be fine.
Man, I can't read you with this team. One day they're fine, the next day this team sucks. What the hell, man?
I didn't say they're going to be good.
You said fine.
They're going to be fine.
Just as good as good.
I'm not going to believe it.
Guys, believe it or not, Aaron Rodgers is faking the torn Achilles.
Oh, absolutely
now
believe
this
it.
is interesting.
Absolutely
Did you
believe
see
it.
this conspiracy theory from Dan Lebitard?
No, but I like it.
Yeah, his ankle's healing at a miraculous rate. Yeah, that doesn't happen, Aaron.
Said, since he went into the darkness retreat, all he found in the darkness was, I must come back hellbent on beating science. And the way that I do it is by coming back faster than anybody ever has from a torn Achilles.
Absolutely believe this. Are you kidding me?
I don't believe it. This is a great conspiracy theory. Great.
You know how you one up Tom Brady as the best quarterback ever? I miraculously heal an ankle injury, and my darkness retreat is how.
You know how bad Zach Wilson is, and so you watch him for like 8 weeks going out there just getting pummeled.
Come back and win the Super Bowl on one leg.
You win the division. This is part of what I took into account with my bet. Aaron Rodgers.
So you are buying in. You're believing the conspiracy theory.
The Jets are going to win the Super Bowl this year. By the way, I think they would be the favorite in the AFC currently if Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback.
I actually agree with that one. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson now. Aaron Rodgers is armed. The defense
is so good, dude. They just have to be average to be a Super Bowl favorite coming out of the AFC.
Their offensive line is terrible, and all of those. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to break his other ankle if he plays again behind him.
They would have beat the Patriots. They would have beat the Chiefs, and who knows what would have happened to that Chargers game. It was dead from the moment that the game started. But they'd probably have 1, maybe 2 losses this year if Rodgers was their quarterback.
This is the greatest conspiracy theory ever. Absolutely believe this one.
I like it. I'll believe it too. Why not?
T-Bone, what do you got?
So I was going to go Perunovich as well. I was going to go bigger picture. Believe it or not, Scott Perunovich will be quarterbacking the top power play unit by the end of the year.
No, I'll believe this one.
No, you don't.
I do. I think if he starts to get success.
Why are you the way you are?
God, you really do suck. Get on your airplane now, please. I mean, look.
God, tomorrow's going to be so great.
What's going to happen is Scott Perunovich is going to get some reps on this power play. I mean, look, let's be honest. Injuries are going to happen. And if it happens for Torrey Krug, he's going to get that opportunity. And that's going to be a Wally Pipp moment. And I think Scott Perunovich can be that quarterback on the number 1 power play. It hasn't worked with Torrey Krug right now. And Krug was talking about being better on it, being faster on it. Scott Perunovich, I think, just can do that. And I'm going to believe this one. And by the end of the year, he's the guy.
I might believe it as well because I think.
Seriously.
He didn't even say anything.
No,
about
I know.
I'm
telling you, dude.
YouTube saw it. By the way, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you should at 101 ESPN STL.
That's how
Cameras,
you get on the.
Presented by Air Alliance Heating and Cooling Team.
That's how you get to the Hall of Fame right there.
Now that's a hell of a transition. But I would say believe it because I think right now Krug in the power play. I know they're generating offense, but if they go through another long kind of stall where they had like 10 power plays in a row where I was like, can we just decline this, please? Then I think, they'll look to Perunovich and hope that he can move the puck a little bit quicker than Torrey Krug can. So I think it's definitely possible.
I'm not going to believe it, but I like your explanation for it. I mean, if they're willing to take the contract off of the power play, I think there's more than ample reason to believe that Perunovich could be better on the power play than what
let's understand,
so far this year.
Torrey Krug has been better than last year so far this year. Like, not just on the power play has just been bad, but like defensively, he's been better than what he was last year, and he has been driving some offense. So the power play doesn't work.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. Alex, believe it or not, Leon Draisaitl is not on the Oilers next year.
I'll believe this one. I think if you're Edmonton, you've been
What
living.
the hell is going on?
Well, I mean, look. First of all, they have had zero. They don't have a capable goaltender. Like,
who could have seen it coming?
Yeah,
though,
well,
really?
I could have. Jack Campbell paying him that money is like, oh, good idea. Now they're just going to run it with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. Like, you've got a great defense. You've got you got an okay defense. I like Matthias Ekholm. I like Darnell Nurse. That's about it. You've got two of the best players in the game. That doesn't matter if the guy can't stop the puck in the net. I do think that Draisaitl isn't re-signed, which seems incredible to say, but think about it. You're going to have to pay him probably somewhere between $11 and $13 million, especially with the cap going up. You need to spend that money on other areas of your team, like, a third and fourth line, some capable defensemen, and a goaltender. So I'll believe this one.
I'll believe it, too. I don't know how you could run it back after the way this is trending. If it continues this way, I don't know how you could run it back with Draisaitl McDavid again. He's got 1 year left at $8 million cap hit. And the cap's going up, by the way. We're not in a flat cap era anymore. I think he'll get dealt. And I don't know where he'll go, but I definitely can see where they trade him.
And not only do I think they might trade him, I think they might have to. He might demand a trade after this season.
Could.
If I'm Leon Draisaitl and I'm looking around saying to myself, how does this get better? You're going to pay me $11, $12, $13 million a year, and you're going to improve this roster? How?
And
explain it to me.
And you're always in Connor McDavid's shadow. And I know people will say, well, Pittsburgh did it with two guys that were paid a lot of money. Yeah, but they also had a Hall of Fame worthy goaltender. And you don't.
Team that should make it happen to get him? Anaheim. Oh, yeah, but...
Well,
sorry,
yeah, the Blues, absolutely.
Sorry, yeah, that was the first answer.
Anaheim, sure, but...
Ducks. Any team that's like... Not Detroit, where they're like, hey, we're coming out of this retool. And then you go, no, you're not.
I'll tell you, the guy that we just talked to a little bit ago, Arizona.
I thought about them, too. Two teams, Arizona, Anaheim.
Oh, yeah, if you give them the money. And, I mean, that's an up-and-coming team. If you're Leon Draisaitl, you want to go where you win.
Got a team for you.
If you say the Blues, I'm going to slap you.
It's not the Blues.
Don't say Colorado.
Chicago. Thought about it, too.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That'd be really annoying.
That'd be a fun look.
No, that would not be fun. God, that would suck so much.
That's where you put him. Put him in Chicago.
So much. Arizona could do it too because they could trade that Vejmelka, who's a young.
So that's the thing. You got to have the assets to make.
You got to have a goaltender. You got to have a goaltender or a stud defenseman that you could trade for Leon Draisaitl. That's cheap because that's the only way Edmonton does that.
All right, we'll offer Laddie, Hofer. What else contract can we offer up?
Sod.
Well, right now,
Sod.
You're not making the cap work on your side, so.
Torchenko. Well, we'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah,
Honestly,
you're right.
A fun one would be Toronto.
No, God, no. Toronto has to be done with overpaying for forwards and not spending. Toronto's the exact same team as Edmonton. They just have more star quality forwards.
Let's see what it looks like.
Why not?
YOLO, am I right?
Yeah, why not? Let's see what it looks like.
Let's just run this train.
Who has the assets to make something like this happen? In all seriousness.
I mean, Arizona does.
I think any of those teams that had been the bottom feeders and now are starting to show signs.
Ottawa's got the assets to do it.
I don't know. Would he want to go to Ottawa?
Probably not, I would imagine.
That's the thing is you have
he
to
also
have the
has a
assets
10-team no-trade list, too. And I would assume like Arizona, Anaheim,
probably
maybe Chicago may be on that list.
Chicago.
Detroit would be an interesting one.
Yeah. Trying to think East Coast. New Jersey's probably not there.
Is there a good team that would view him as like the Kachuk, and not so much the way he plays,
last piece.
but like the last piece? Because remember, we never thought Florida. I mean, we knew Kachuk was had Florida on his list, but we didn't see that coming.
I was just going to say we're completely overlooking the team that always trades for stars, Vegas.
That's the team.
They'll absolutely do it. They'll trade Aiden Hill and try and sell Edmonton.
Maybe Vancouver says we'll trade you from our
Vancouver's got to pay Pettersson though, and Pettersson's going to be getting Draisaitl money.
Right.
Vegas isn't even going to have a fourth line next year.
Yeah, Vegas is just going to roll 8 forwards and be like, we can do it.
Instead of F them picks, that fourth line.
Buffalo's another really good one. Buffalo could be a team that says, let's do it.
That would be fun.
There's some teams that are really interesting in terms of like, man, you're at a crossroads right now. Like Pittsburgh, what do you do?
Oh, Pittsburgh.
You have no way out.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's got to blow it up.
What do you do after this season if you're Edmonton? What do you do after this season if you're Calgary? There are some legit blow-up candidates in the NHL this year, the way that like the Brewers are, for example, in Major League Baseball, where you've hit the end of the road. There's no place forward.
He's a fascinating one in the sense of it. I know we laugh at it because the Blues would never do this, but
I said they should.
You do a number one centerman for that amount of money, put yourself back into the conversation, that's for sure.
I mean, the Blues could be the team.
You're not going to get him traded. You won't get him traded here, though, because you don't have the assets to trade for him.
Robert Thomas.
I don't think that gets it done.
Snugger divorce.
Why not?
Just throw it in.
Because they want to compete now.
Starting point.
They don't need centerman. I mean, yeah, they're moving on from Draisaitl,
Right,
but they need defense and they need goaltender. You would probably have to give them Binnington and or Hofer.
Wait, we got to get rid of both of our goalies?
I mean, what I'm saying is, like, you can't trade for him. If he becomes a free agent, that's how you get him. You don't have the assets to trade for that.
That won't happen.
Snuggerud doesn't get it done.
I said earlier today I wouldn't trade Binnington.
Oh, if it's Draisaitl, yeah. I mean, look, I am the biggest component of Jordan Binnington in the state of Missouri. But if Leon Draisaitl is available,
I always knew you were a fraud Binnington supporter.
I'm not a fraud. I want a team that wins.
I mean, this is like the Cubs firing David Ross for Craig Counsell. Like, yeah, man.
It's a little bit better, but not great.
Whoa.
If I've got one of the best players in the history of the league that suddenly has become available, this is an opportunity that is never presented to you. You got to make stuff that shouldn't be available in any other scenario. Suddenly it becomes available here. It's like when we were talking about Tkachuk, man. People are like, oh, you can't trade Kyrou. No, I don't want to trade Kyrou. But for that...
Yeah, I was going to say, you trade everything for that.
Yeah.
And that's why Florida did what they did. Like, you don't... If Edmonton's trading Draisaitl, they're not trading Draisaitl because they're blowing it up. Because if that's the case, then you trade McDavid, too. You trade Draisaitl because...
Wait. I'll take McDavid over Draisaitl.
I know. But...
I don't know.
You trade...
Yeah,
come on, man. You trade Draisaitl.
Take Draisaitl.
It's like Gretzky Jr. over there.
You trade Draisaitl because you're opening up $8.5 million of cap space that you can spend on a competent goaltender and better depth for a team that needs to win.
All right, you know what I want?
It's basically the Tyreek Hill trade.
Yeah.
Like that's what they would be doing, is saying, hey, okay, listen, like we can't have one of the greatest to ever do it, but can we get like 4 pretty good guys to go along with Connor McDavid, who's also one of the greatest to ever do it? And can we please get a goalie? Can we please get a goalie? Please, just one.
And any team that does this, that goes for Draisaitl, is basically saying, yep, we're ready to start winning.
In a meaningful way. And by the way, for anybody curious, like, why are you guys talking about trading Leon Draisaitl? That's ridiculous. Well, they're 2-8-1 so far to start out the season. They're basically doing their best version of the Blues from 2022, and he's a free agent after next year. So the whole free agency thing that we've seen with Matthew Tkachuk doing that, we've seen other guys that say, hey, a year from now, I'm not re-signing here, so you might as well trade me now. It is entirely possible that if it continues going in this direction, Draisaitl becomes the next guy to say, I'm not re-signing here. You have to figure out a way to get me somewhere else, and I'll give you a 5-team trade list that I will be willing to re-sign with, and then they are kind of held over the barrel to figure out what to do.
Buckle up for Vegas. Vegas has entered the chat.
Coming up next, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind here on 101 ESPN. Amy's going to snap me in half, so we're going to go pretty quick here.
That would be
Alongside
fun to
Alex
see.
and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you missed anything from today's show, we talked with Bill Armstrong, Arizona Coyotes general manager, former Blues assistant GM, a little bit earlier today. A great conversation with him. Check that out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com. The free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
You guys can always rewatch our YouTube page as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN. The studio cams are powered by the Air Alliance team. Whether you're watching live or you want to watch after the show, you can rewatch the show in its entirety over there. Alex and T-Bone are going to take care of you tomorrow, which means that there's a guarantee they will have a great guest because I'm out. That's what they always do. They always get JP Morosi,
T-Bone, let's
John
see if Mo's
Mozeliak.
available.
I'm sure there's going to be like Doug Armstrong's going to join you live
probably.
at the ENB Granite
player.
Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. So look forward to that. I will talk to you guys next Tuesday. Root for my picks this weekend, please. Jamie Stalter, the Fast Lane, coming up next here on 101 ESPN.